Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to Testa and Neal Keep It Real right here on WWSU 106.9 and our YouTube channel, WWSU 1069. I'm Shea Neal, alongside with me, Parker Testa. Parker, they won't know this, but this is the earliest we've recorded in like 8 days, and that's sad because it's still 10 p.m.
Right. Yeah, it is sad, but life gets in the way sometimes. You do what you got to do.
Yeah, hey, you're coming to Fairborn tomorrow.
I am. Yeah, I am. We're looking forward to this event tomorrow. We hope to see you out there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's they did just move it to the Apollo Room, so if you were planning on it being at the Netter Center, the loosening of the protocols, they got to move it back to Apollo, so that's right in the front of the student union. You can't miss it. Two huge doors when you get inside the union, and there's that's where the Apollo Room is at. So you'll see us there. Look for the WWSU table. We'll be giving out hot cards. We'll be giving out t-shirts. And if you're listening to the show, we're still out there. We'll be out there until about 2 o'clock. So come on down, see us in the Apollo Room, and hey, let us know that you listen to the show. Maybe we'll give you 2 shirts. Maybe we'll give you one for a friend. So let us know that Keep It Real sent you. So we appreciate you hanging out with us. We got a lot of show to get into today, Parker. We have had so much fun with the tier lists this week. And by the way, before I forget, I'm repping the Raider gang today. And how cool was that?
Yes, it's
The
awesome.
official Nike gear of the Raider gang. And it's a
Yes.
thermal, so it covers my neck too, and I dig it. But I just wanted to show that off because I thought it was funny, and I put in our group chat. I ordered this like 3 weeks ago, and then like a day after they get knocked out of regionals is when I get the email, and it's like your hoodie is on the way, and I'm like, oh cool, great. As soon as the season ends, thanks. But it is really, really cool, and I'm going to be wearing it a lot because obviously black hoodies reign supreme, and with the Wright State Raider gang logo on it, I mean, it takes it to a new level. So I just wanted to show that off because it's the first time I've repped it on the show. But we had so much fun with tier lists this week that we decided to do 2 today. So in hour number 1, we're doing MLB first baseman. And in hour number 2, this is going to be a really fun one, Parker. NFL quarterbacks.
Yeah, I'm excited. We're gonna quickly hit on. It's gonna be a baseball packed hour number 1 today. We're talking scores around the league and what we think on the standings over across the league right now. Then we're doing our first baseman tier list. And then hour number 2, we got some NBA playoff talk. The Bucks and the Clippers are playing right now. And then we'll do our NFL quarterbacks tier list, which I'm pumped for.
Yeah, we're going to be doing all 32 starters, a handful of backups that I mean, we're not going to be doing, Davis Mills or something like that, but we'll do guys like Nick Foles, Andy Dalton, Mitch Trubisky, some guys that you've heard of around the league, a guy that you like as a Colts fan, Jacoby Brissett. And then, of course, like I said, we'll be doing all the first-round rookies, so Lawrence, Wilson, Fields, Jones, and Lance. So it's going to add up being like 45 quarterbacks, and I don't know how much time we're gonna have to stall in hour number 2. That might take the entire hour.
Yeah, I think it will, but it's going to be a fun one, and I'm excited for it.
Sure am as well. I am as well. So let's get into it because we got a lot of show to get into today, and we are YouTube only today actually because we are at this event, and I don't really have time to monitor the breaks, and our engineer is very, very busy, and I don't want to make him do that. So YouTube only today. We'll be back on the air on Monday. But if you're hanging out with us on YouTube, we do appreciate it. So really quick, a plug for the socials, like always, WWSU 1069, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Follow us there. You can catch up with all the shows that go on the station. You can catch up with all of our events. You can catch up with all of our, our staff spotlights that we're doing. And so it's a good idea to give us a follow because you'll be ahead of the game on everything that we're planning. Also, you can follow us personally at Parker Testa, at ESPN Shea Neal. If you like to see me tweet about how good the food game is in the city of Fairborn, follow me on Twitter because I got a like from the verified city of Fairborn Twitter account. So, we're taking W's, and I'm not kidding. Fairborn, if you're coming out for orientation and this is your first time in the city, really good food in the city of Fairborn. You've got McAllister's Deli, you've got Jason's Deli, you've got Giordano's, you've got Tickets in downtown Fairborn, a really nice bar with some awesome euros. You've got Giovanni's, one of the best pizza joints I've ever had, and I think it's the best pizza in the state of Ohio. And then a place we're going later on today, Parker, El Riacho, one of the best Mexican places in the city of Dayton. Really good tacos, and that's where we're going to be heading here in a few hours.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's an action-packed day.
Sure
Back
is.
to Fairborn for me. get a lot of work done, attend this event, and then we're gonna go get some bomb Mexican food.
We're squeezing like 3 weeks of fun into one day because you don't come here very often in the summer. So, but
Yeah.
let's get into it. MLB standings and scores. So the Red Sox and the Astros are actually playing right now. It's 10-8 Red Sox in the bottom of the sixth. That's been a really fun series. Two teams that are in playoff contention. I expect to be in playoff contention for the majority of the season. Boston's pitching, obviously still a little bit of a question mark until they get Chris Sale back. The Astros a little bit more consistently talented in terms of the roster. But the Red Sox, I mean, with JD Martinez, Xander Bogaerts, and Alex Verdugo, and then how good the bullpen's been. I mean, the Red Sox have a chance to win every game they play.
Yeah, they do. And the Red Sox really surprised not only me, but I think a lot of people. Um, they're a team that you don't expect to be good. You know, they got Verdugo and Xander Bogaerts and JD Martinez. You know, the typical faces you think when you think Red Sox, but guys that are you really don't think are really performing well. Bobby Dahlbeck has done fantastically at first base, and then we'll talk about Dahlbeck here in our next segment. But he really has played well. Vasquez behind the plate's done a fantastic job. He was high on our MLB catchers tier list that we did earlier this week. Um, and you know the typical guys. Xander Bogaerts is putting up MVP numbers. JD Martinez is playing an excellent. He has excellent bat like always. Devers is playing really great at third base, and of course Verdugo in the outfield. So the Red Sox have surprised a lot of people. But I think if they can kind of shape up their pitching a little bit, this team is going to be even better than they already are.
Yeah, they are. And I mean, like we said a couple of days ago, I mean, they already get a step forward in that department when they get Chris Sale back, and when I mean Eduardo Rodriguez right now has an ERA of like 5.8, and you and I both know that Eduardo Rodriguez is capable of way more than that, and I think he's still kind of easing back after that injury last season. But by the time July August rolls around, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he's pitching to a 4.1, 4.2, because that's what he's capable of. He's a fringe all-star caliber pitcher.
He is, and he's certainly the quote unquote ace right now for Alex Cora with Sale being out. So, and speaking of Sale, he should be back really soon, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
Um, but when they get Sale back, their pitching is going to improve, and I think their record is going to improve as well. They're going to be a better defensive team and I think if your pitcher's hot, that's very contagious among the rest of the defensive field.
Mm-hmm.
If your pitcher's playing well, I think the rest of your field should be playing well. So if you get Sale back, it's going to certainly give a momentum boost to the Red Sox, who are they're pretty good right now, but they're going to be even better here coming up.
They sure are. Another series that's going on this weekend that I really was looking forward to: White Sox and Blue Jays. The Sox lead tonight, 3-2 right now in the seventh inning. I think the White Sox are the better team. The Blue Jays obviously still a contender though for the playoffs. The White Sox, man, have been decimated with injuries. Though they're missing Dallas Keuchel. They have Eloy Jimenez out until September. They have Luis Robert out until August, and today they found out Nick Madrigal has a tear in his hamstring and is going to be out for the rest of the season. So three really talented young stars out for the long term for the White Sox. They still have talent, obviously, Jose Abreu, Yohan Moncada, as well as guys like Yasmani Grandal, Tim Anderson. I mean, the talent's still there. And then pitchers like Rodon and Giolito and Lance Lynn. How good has Lance Lynn been this year for the White Sox? So the talent's still there, but their depth is starting to get challenged. And you'll see a lot more of guys like Billy Hamilton and Adam Engel moving forward.
Yeah, and the injury bug has plagued Tony La Russa's squad, and it's hit them hard. But they're still a great team. Losing Madrigal really sucks, and he's
Madrigal. And what really sucks, and I didn't mean to cut you off, he's a career like 320 hitter. He's one of the best contact hitters in the league. He's very similar to David Fletcher with the Angels, but he started off kind of slow this year. But in the last 13 games, I think it was, he's hitting 385 with an OPS of like 940. So he was really starting to come into his own. And just an absolutely devastating injury, not just for the White Sox, but also for Nick Madrigal, because, I mean, he was starting to emerge as a star second baseman.
Yeah, he was. And this is a guy who's, like you said, emerging as a star. And, the the White Sox have stars. Guys like Abreu is always good. Grandal's playing well also. And they have some stud pitchers, Lance Lynn, Dallas Keuchel, as well as Rodon. And Tim Anderson, not to forget Tim Anderson. He's probably the biggest name on that team. So this White Sox team has talent, and even though you lose Madrigal, you still have guys that can compete, and they're still going to be competitive here in the AL Central.
Yeah. Last series I want to talk about here before we get to the standings: Brewers and Reds. The Brewers take 2 out of 3 in Cincinnati. Now the Brewers are 11-2 in their last 13 games. They're red hot. The Reds had chances to win all 3 games. Unfortunately, their bullpen gave up far too many runs, and Sonny Gray had to leave his start after 3 innings with an injury. And Luis Castillo was really, really good today, but a rain delay kind of cut his start short as well. So, it was a good sign to see Luis Castillo pitch a lot better. He only gave up 1 hit in 5 2/3. But the Reds, unfortunately, in a series where they could have taken 2, maybe even 3 against a team higher than them in the standings at home, can't capitalize on that opportunity. The good news for them, Colorado comes to town next. The Rockies are 5-24 on the road this year. So the Reds got to find a way to win this series, if not sweep.
Yeah, they do. And this NL Central is one that's really close, with the exception of the Pirates. The Reds in 4th place are 5 games back. The Cardinals in 3rd place are 3 games back, and the Brewers and the Cubs are tied for the lead right now. So, 2 teams that at the top that both started out a bit sluggish, but they found their own here as we've kind of got into the dog days of the season here in June and coming up in July. So. I think both these teams at the top of the Central are going to be up there to win it. If not all 4 of these teams coming up here in August and September are going to have a shot to win this division.
Well, I like to be realistic. The Reds need to address their bullpen if they want to compete. And they need, I know they're going to get Moustakas back. They're going to get Senzel back. I don't think that their bats are an issue. I don't think their starting pitching is an issue. Wade Miley's been great this year. Tyler Mally's been great this year. Sonny Gray's been good when he's been healthy. He's just had 2 injuries. Luis Castillo, I know his ERA is 6.15, but his last 2 games have been much better. And if we're starting to get back to all-star level Luis Castillo, this pitching rotation is going to be nasty, even if they don't have Trevor Bauer this year. The offense, good enough. It's not great. It's not top of the league, but it's above average, and it's good enough to win games. Right now, what's losing them games is the bullpen. It's because they only have 2 guys they can count on, and that's TJ Antone and Lucas Sims, and they can't pitch every single day. They're going to get Michael Lorenzen back. Amir Garrett's better than what his numbers have shown, but you got to get a guy or 2 at the deadline that can give David Bell more options. If you can get this bullpen to average, this Reds team's right there at the top with the Cubs and the Brewers, in my opinion. And I know that they're 5 games back of the Cubs, but they've only played the Cubs 3 times this year. So there's still plenty of opportunities for them to play division teams and get back in this thing.
Yeah. And they have 2 of the best hitters in the National League right now, in Winker and Castellanos. So, I saw a stat. The hardest hit balls on the season. Salvi Perez is at the top of the list, but 2 and 3 are Winker and Castellanos. So, 2 guys that are hitting the skin off the ball right now. So. The Reds' offense is not an issue. I think it's just their pitching that needs to be shaped up, especially their bullpen. So, if David Bell can kind of work out the kinks of this bullpen, and kind of get them kind of whipped back into shape, if you will, I'm going to be watching a lot of Reds baseball come up here, because they're going to be a lot of fun to watch as we get closer to August.
They sure are. They have the talent and the potential to be a top 3 or 4 team in the National League, I think. TJ Antone's just absolutely disgusting. I've shown you a couple videos of TJ Antone's curveball, and he just throws 96, 97 effortlessly. And I still think he's a long-term starter, because I think he has ace level stuff. But right now they can't make him a starter because he's the only guy in the bullpen that can get outs. And he's an absolute freak, because he ends up pitching 2 1/3 innings like every other day. And I don't know how his arm hasn't fallen off yet, because he's pitched almost as many innings as some of the starters, and he's pitching every other day. So TJ Antone's an absolute freak. He deserves to be in the All-Star game. He probably won't be, because he's not a closer and he plays for the Reds. But TJ Antone is disgusting. And considering he was a 21st round pick that nobody had ever heard of until last season, he's carved out quite the impressive start to his career.
Yeah, he has. And he's David, like you said, he's David Bell's most consistent reliever. He's the only
period. He's the most consistent pitcher, period. I don't think he's dominant every time he goes in.
Yeah. And He's the most the most reliable reliever, I think, is what is the word I was looking for. Sims has his moments. And Sims seems like to me where he's a guy who's when he's on, he's really on, and when he's not on, he really isn't too great. So, um, this is a team that I think if they figure out their bullpen, the starters can have their work out the kinks. If Castillo can kind of bring his ERA down a little bit and get kind of back to the Castillo that we're used to seeing. Sonny Gray hasn't been great, but he hasn't been completely terrible either. So, like you said, if they can get back to average, I think that we'll see the wins come as we get closer and as we get closer to the fall.
Yeah, I agree. Really quick before we get into this first tier list, I want to talk about two things really quick. It's a team in the AL that's surprising me, and a team in the NL that's really surprising me. And in the AL, it's the Tampa Bay Rays. I knew they'd be competitive. I did not think they'd be 15 games over 500 with a plus 75 run differential, 23-10 away from the Trop. They have been outstanding this year, the best record in the American League. And then the team in the National League, the San Francisco Giants, 38-23. They have a plus 74 run differential. They are 11-9 against teams over 500, but they are also 6 games over 500 on the road, 9 games over 500 at home, and they just find ways to win. Their pitching's really, really good, and their offense good enough. So, I mean, if you told me before the season that the Giants and the Rays would have the two best records in the league, I would have laughed at you. But both of them have been outstanding baseball teams so far through 2 months.
Yeah, they have, and they're the Giants. I thought the Rays would be good. They're coming off a World Series appearance, but the Giants are the team that have really blown my expectations out of the water. They're really good, and like you said, their pitching is what's holding them up at the top of this division and at the top of the National League. But their hitting is average to above average at best. So, and that just goes to show you, pitching wins games, and it really can make a difference. If you can miss bats, you're going to win the game a really high percentage of the time. They don't have the best run differential in the division, but they're still plus 74. So they're playing really good baseball right now. And like you said, the Rays, not really a big surprise to me. I think the bigger surprise is the Boston Red Sox, personally. But the typical teams that I thought, but that you think are going to be good in the American League is like the Yankees or the Houston Astros, and both those teams are good, and as well as Boston. But the team that has really surprised me, and not in a good way, they're terrible, is the Los Angeles Angels.
Yeah.
They're struggling, and I've said this numerous times. They should not have the talent on that team that they have, and be 30-32, 2 games under 500, as we get closer to the All-Star break.
They should not. And the Angels have been extremely disappointing. We knew teams like the Pirates would be bad. We knew teams like the Tigers would be bad. But the Angels, we expected to at least be average and competing into August and September. And they've really, them and the Twins have really been the two most disappointing teams in baseball this year. The Twins, out of their control a little bit more because of injuries and because of, just regression and stuff like that. I think some of it's out of the Twins' hand. Obviously, they haven't played well, but a lot of it's injuries and a lot of it's kind of, just inconsistency. The Angels just aren't playing well, and there's really no excuse. I know Trout's hurt right now, but they weren't playing well before Trout got hurt. And when you have the talent that they have on that roster, it's borderline, a crime that this front office can't find one or two solid pitchers. Because if they could, this team would be competing for the AL West title.
Yeah, they would, and I expected the Athletics to be really good. Bob Melvin's team is any team with Bob Melvin at the helm is going to be competitive. And I thought the Astros would be good as well. I did not expect the Angels to be fourth in this division. I expected like a Athletics 1, Angels 2, and Astros 3 in this division. I did not expect Athletics, Astros, Mariners, Angels.
Yeah. The Mariners is really surprising. I mean, I think you could have argued that the Astros maybe finish above them, but anything lower than third for the Angels is just embarrassing because the Mariners and Rangers are supposed to be years behind where the Angels are right now.
Yeah, and you talk about the Mariners and disappointing. Everyone was looking forward to the Kelenic getting called up. but he was just sent down again because he struggled vitally at the major league level.
Yeah, he sure has. All right, well, let's get into this first tier list, Parker. MLB first baseman. Again, if you're just now joining us, we're going to also be doing NFL quarterbacks in hour number two, in hour number two. Because I mean, it's a tier list Friday, Parker, and I mean, I don't think anyone's complaining. I know I'm not.
I'm not either. 2 tier lists in the same day. It's a blast. So, and we're having fun with it. No doubt about it. So
We've got
we're happy to do this because it's just been a blast.
Yeah, it sure has. So we've got two divisions that we haven't started with yet, Parker, the AL Central and the NL Central. Which one do you want to start with today for first baseman?
Start with the higher letter in the alphabet. Let's do the AL Central.
AL Central. All right. Well, let's start with who I feel is the best first baseman in the AL Central, and I don't think that's really up for a ton of debate. That's Jose Abreu, the reigning American League MVP. He's really, really good. So our tiers here we have our superstar, all-star, good, average, below average, and trash. Jose Abreu, I'm debating between superstar and all-star. He's the reigning MVP, so superstar maybe is fitting for him. But I don't think of him when I think of a superstar in baseball, and maybe that's my fault. But I'm going to put him in all-star. But I wouldn't complain at all if anyone put him in superstar either.
No, I wouldn't either. He's going to go an all-star for me as well because, like you said, he's not a guy that I think of when I hear MLB stud first baseman. And, he is a stud first baseman, but he's not a guy that you hear of because he's not on a team in Chicago that everybody think of. You think Chicago baseball, you think
right. He's the second most popular first baseman in Chicago. I'm glad you brought that up. That's a great point.
Yeah, and you don't think White Sox when you think Chicago baseball. You think Cubs. And Rizzo is certainly really good, respectively, but Abreu, I could argue that he's just as good because he's on a team that they have all the talent in the world, and they're a really good team. And I think the White Sox actually have the better record than the Cubs do right now. So,
they do.
It's maybe this is a the White Sox are getting sick of I'm sick of being little brother to the Cubs in the same town here. So
right.
But I love Abreu. He's really good, and he's coming off an AL MVP, and he deserves to get he should get the credit that he deserves. He's an all-star tier first baseman for me.
Yeah, and that's kind of the same thought process I had too. He's a guy that's consistently putting up numbers. He's not the flashy superstar first baseman that you'd think of right off the bat, but he's a guy that's consistently playing at an all-star level, and I think he belongs right there in that all-star tier. Let's get to another guy that I really like. I think I might be higher on this guy than a lot of people are, and that's Carlos Santana with the Kansas City Royals. I love the fact that he's a switch hitter. He's always been a decent first baseman on defense. He's never been a Gold Glover, but he's never been costing people games. But he's got great power from the left side, great contact from the right side. It's very rare for a switch hitter to be equally as good on both sides of the plate. Carlos Santana is that guy, and he's a great veteran leader in that Royals clubhouse. He's not an all-star for me because I don't think he's on Jose Abreu's level, but he's in the good tier. I like Carlos Santana quite a bit.
I do too. Switch hitting is extremely valuable in baseball, anywhere at any level. So I like Santana a lot. I really do. He's the value that he has, and the experience that he has. Veteran leadership is huge in a locker room, and he brings a tremendous value to their offense, in that he can hit on both sides of the plate and be competitive on both sides of the plate. So I like Santana a lot. He's going to be in the good category for me as well.
Okay, this is where it gets a little interesting in the AL Central because the next three teams we're going to talk about have more interesting cases at first base. Let's start with Miguel Sano and the Minnesota Twins. Sano has some of the best power in the major leagues, and I don't think many people would disagree with that. The problem is he hits about 230, 240. He's not a great defender at first base, and he's not very athletic. He's not very speedy. He really is a one-tool player in his power, and his power is always there, but his inconsistency at the plate makes it not as potent as it could be. For me, I'm going to put him in average because his power keeps him from being below average, but he's average at best, in my opinion.
He's not the player he was, and he competed in the home run derby a couple years back. He's made an all-star game more than a few times in his career, but he's not the player he was. He's hit a bit of a snag and started to decline here as you get older. Father time is starting to hit Miguel Sano, so he's going to be in the average category for me as well. But I still love him as a player.
All right, now we get to the last two. One that's kind of been in the league for a while and just hasn't never been really that great, and one that's brand new to the league. And so we'll start with Renato Nunez, maybe a name you've heard before. He played with the Orioles for a few years. He's got some power, but much like Sano, inconsistent at the plate, not a great fielder, not a great athlete. Well, I shouldn't say that. He's a professional athlete, but not the most athletic guy in Major League Baseball. Unlike Sano, he doesn't have some of the milestones like the All-Star game and the home run derby and, hitting 40 bombs in a season. So for me, Renato Nunez, I'm not going to put him in trash because he does have some power to him, but he's definitely below average for me.
Yeah, he is. When you think Detroit first base, you think Miguel Cabrera, and rightfully so. You should think Miguel Cabrera, but Nunez is he was in Baltimore for a while, but he's now in Detroit, and he's like I know even though he starts on the Tigers team, on any other team he'd be the bench guy who plays every 3-4 days, and so he's not the greatest player. And he's been around for a while. Don't get me wrong, but he certainly doesn't have the talent as any of the other guys on this list. So he's going to be below average for me also.
Yeah, and this last one's really hard, Parker. I wish we had a tier that said, I don't know yet, because Bobby Bradley just got called up last week, and I don't know what he's going to be like. So it feels mean to put him in below average or trash, but I can't put him any higher because I don't know if he's good or not. So I'm going to put him in below average just because I don't know where else to put him. Obviously, he's not terrible, or else they wouldn't have called him up. But he only has like 20 at bats in the major leagues. I can't put him anywhere else except for below average right now. He has a bright future, but as of right now, a below average first baseman.
Yeah, he is, and like you said, we don't know. We really don't. And you stole the words right out of my mouth. He's good enough to be called up to the major leagues, but you don't know what he's going to do after that. Case in point, and perfect example is Jared Kelenic. He received all the hype. He was the number one prospect in the Mariners organization. He came up and he struggled. So it's 20 at bats in. You don't know. So he's going to be below average for me also because this is really a feeling out period for Tito in Cleveland.
Yeah, it sure is. So, but I'm excited to track, the progress of Bobby Bradley, but for sure, as of right now, not a guy that you think of as an above average first baseman. So let's move to the NL Central. Let's start with who I think is the best first baseman in this division. There's a lot of good first basemen in this division: Paul Goldschmidt, Joey Votto, Anthony Rizzo. But I think he's the guy. If we did this 3 or 4 years ago, Parker, I think Goldschmidt goes in superstar, and it's not even that close. He hasn't been the same guy in St. Louis that he was in Arizona, but he's still an all-star caliber first baseman for me. He's still a guy that's going to put up 270, 280, high on base percentage, about 30 home runs, and really solid defense at first base. He's a very different player from Jose Abreu. He's a much better defender. He doesn't have as much power. He doesn't drive in as many runs, but I think they're both all-star level players.
Yeah, I do too. Like you said, Goldschmidt is not the player he was. But he's still tremendously talented. He's still, a really solid power bat. In the top half of your lineup. I like Goldschmidt. I liked him in Arizona, and I like him in St. Louis. I know you don't like him as much because he's in St. Louis, but he's still tremendous. He still plays really well, and even though he's getting up there in age, he still provides what I think Mike Schultz looking for. A guy who can play almost every day and not be completely atrocious defensively or offensively, and that's what Goldschmidt is right now. He's not the player he was, but he still puts all-star caliber numbers up, and he's in the all-star category for me.
Yeah, he is for me as well. Next, Anthony Rizzo. Rizzo's a tough one for me. I was debating between putting him in all-star or good because I don't think he's as good as Abreu or Goldschmidt, but I think he's better than Carlos Santana, obviously. I'm still going to put him in all-star, but he's at the end of all-star for me. Anthony Rizzo is still a really good first baseman, with a ton of power. He's the leader of that Cubs team without a doubt. And he plays some pretty solid defense at first base. but he's just not the same caliber as Abreu and Goldschmidt. He's still a fringe all-star caliber player, but these two right here are guys that I expect to make the all-star game every year. Rizzo makes it, once every 2 or 3 years. So I'm still going to put him in all-star because I think he's better than Santana, but he's at the end of all-star for me.
Yeah, this one's tough. For me, he's in between Goldschmidt and Abreu. I still think he's better than Goldschmidt. I do. But he's going to be an all-star category for me as well. He's not as good as Abreu. Abreu's coming off an MVP. And he's a fringe superstar right now for the White Sox.
Yes.
But he's I think Rizzo still has more talent, and he's still a more capable player than Goldschmidt is. So he's going to be an all-star tier for me, but in between Abreu and Goldschmidt.
Okay. I don't want to sound biased on this one, Parker, so I'm going to let you rate him first. Joey Votto and the Cincinnati Reds.
So Joey Votto for me, I'm going to put him in good.
Okay.
He's not the player he was for sure. He hit that home run last night, which was great to see him hit after him coming off that thumb injury. He's certainly not the player he was, but he spent seemingly a million years in Cincinnati. He's so beloved in Cincinnati. The two most popular guys in Cincinnati are both named Joey.
Mm-hmm.
So he's still certainly a talented player, but he's certainly not the player he was. Would it surprise me to see him make an All-Star game this late in his career? No. But I still think he's not that player he was. He's going to be in good category for me.
I'm 100% with you, and I'm glad you kind of had that same idea. I think he's pretty similar. I think it's tough. He's probably at the same level as Santana. The Reds fan in me likes to think he's still a little better than Carlos Santana, but I don't really know. He still has, I think the problem for Joey Votto for a lot of the last 2 years was I think he got in his own head. He's a perfectionist and he doesn't like to fail. So when, Father Time started to catch up to him and he started to lose his bat speed and he started to lose his raw power and stuff like that, he struck out a lot more. And it got to his head. He got frustrated. And I think that he tried too much to tinker with his swing and it messed up his stats for a couple years. This year, he just went back to what he said in spring training. I'm just going to go back to seeing the ball and hitting the ball hard. He's not drawing as many walks as he did earlier in his career, but he's hitting the ball right on the money. He's only hitting about 230, but he's one of the most unluckiest hitters in the league right now in terms of exit velocity converted to, batting average. He's top 10, I think, in the league in unlucky hitters. He's hitting the ball really hard. He's got a lot more home runs already at this point in the season. He's not a great defender anymore, but I still think there's enough in that bat for me to put him in good tier.
Yeah, there are two guys that are both in this good category right now. For me, is Santana and Votto. They're similar in age. I still think Santana's a little bit more valuable than Votto, strictly because he can switch hit.
Mm-hmm.
But they're very similar defenders. They're very similar. They're very similar points in their careers. But they're both they're on pretty equal levels for me.
Okay, fair enough. I agree. So we got two more here in the AL or in the NL Central. Colin Moran. I like Colin Moran. He's got some good power. I thought he was a good piece when they got him in that Garrett Cole trade. He's taken a step back. He's hitting about 230 this year. He's not a good defender at first base. He wasn't a good defender at third base, but obviously they moved him because of Brian Hayes. So I'm debating between average and below average. I'm going to put him in below just because I think Sano has a better track record than him. But I think Colin Moran's the best of the three that we have in below average so far.
Yeah, I think so too. He certainly, Nunez is a seasoned veteran who hasn't really panned out like people wanted him to. Well, boy, what's that guy's name? Bobby
Bradley.
Bobby Bradley. My Lord. Bobby Bradley has just started in his career, so like we said, we don't know. But Moran is a guy who's somewhat established. He's been in the Astros organization, but he can play almost the entire infield. He can play third and first for Derek Shelton in Pittsburgh. I like Colin Moran, but he's certainly not on the level of guys like Sano, Votto, and Santana. So he's going to be a below average for me.
Okay. And our final one, Keston Hiura. This one's also kind of tough. Keston Hiura had an unbelievable start to his career, Parker. He made an all-star team. He hit like 280 with like 25 bombs. He looked like, a really stud future all-star second baseman. And this year he has struggled. He's hitting like 170. He's been sent to AAA twice already this year. I'm going to put him in average. I know what he's capable of. I think down the road, he's definitely good enough to be in good tier. I think he could end up being an all-star tier. But as of right now, he's really struggling right now. And until I see him get his swing back, he's an average for me.
Yeah, he is. Like you said, he started out his career very promisingly, and he's been over this, the course of his career. I think he's gone from top tier good, and now he's dropped down to, he's kind of fallen back to earth a little bit. And he's in that average category for me as well. He's not the hitter he was for sure, but I like Keston Hira. I think he'll kind of pan out a little bit and be he'll rise to that to the top of that average category. But I still don't think he's the player he was. And it's unfortunate because I like Hero, but he's an average player for me right now.
Okay, let's move on to let's do the AL East. We'll start with Bobby Dahlbeck, a really young, talented first baseman with a ton of potential. The average is not there right now. He's hitting, I think, 204. He's got a ton of raw power. He's been decent at first base defensively. He's a great athlete for a first baseman. As of right now, I think his defense and his athleticism is good enough to put him in average for me. The power is obviously there. He's one of the Red Sox top prospects. He's not going to hit 204 his whole career. He's eventually going to figure out how to at least get to 250, 260. And when he does, I think he's easily in the good tier. Bobby Dahlbeck has a very bright future, and Red Sox fans should be very excited.
Yeah, I'm gonna put him at the top of this average category. He's if we had a category in between good and average, I'd put Dahlbeck in that category. He's surprised the heck out of me this year. He really has. He's a guy who I had never heard of before this season, to be honest with you. But he's come out and he's played really good ball for Alex Cora. So like you said, his bat quite ain't there right now. But he's made some defensive plays that have impressed me certainly. So. I like Bobby Dahlbeck. I think Alex Cora likes him too. I think he'll pan out as we get, as he gets further in his career. So he's going to be a top level average player for me.
I like it. All right, let's do. I'll let you pick our next one in the AL East. Do you want to do Voit? Do you want to do Mountcastle, Guerrero, or G-Man Choi?
Let's do Guerrero. I love Vlad Guerrero. He's going to be
what a year he's had.
He's going to be an all-star category player for me. And he has a lot of promise coming up through the minors, and he's delivered on all of the statistics, or the hype, if you will, or surrounding him for the season. So I love Vladdy Jr. He's playing really really good ball.
Yeah.
This season, for Charlie Montoyo.
He is.
He's hitting 330. His WAR is 3.1. He has 18 home runs right now. So I love Vladdy Jr. and he's certainly a really good player. I'm going to put him in all-star category.
I like that. I agree with you. I think he's an all-star as well. He's going to be the starting first baseman in the all-star game. And if the season ended today, the AL MVP comes down to Shohei Ohtani and Vlad Guerrero Jr. I mean, Vladdy's hitting 335 with 17 home runs and I think 51 RBIs right now. He's had an unbelievable season. He's an all-star right now. And by the end of the year, if he wins MVP, and next year at the absolute latest, I think he's in superstar.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. He's playing really well. I love Vladdy Jr. He's really good. There's just no doubt about it.
And he's still only 22 years old. He's still really young.
He's only 22, and it's amazing to see that. So, he still has at least 15 years of his career left. So, if he's doing this now, I'm terrified to see what his prime is going to look like.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to let's do Luke Voit with the New York Yankees. Luke Voit, what a trade that was for the Yankees. I mean, they got him expecting him to be just kind of depth bench a player when they got that trade with the Cardinals. And he's been really, really solid. He hits about 30 home runs a year when he's healthy. He hits for about a 260, 270 average. He's decent on defense. He's athletic enough to make a couple tough plays. He's not a Gold Glover by any means. But I'm going to put Luke Voit in good. I think he's He's probably at the top of good. I think he's better than Votto and Santana. He's not an all-star caliber player yet. I don't know if he'll ever be an all-star caliber player at this point in his career, but he's an above average, really solid first baseman for the New York Yankees.
This is going to bother people. I'm going to put him in average, the top of the average.
Okay.
He's a guy, like you said, he's hitting around 270 for his career, but he's 30 years old. I'm sorry, just got a text. But
no worries. Who's it from? I'm just kidding.
But yeah, he certainly has the he's not going to be that all-star player like you said. And this season he's been tremendously underwhelming. He has one home run. He's batting 182. He just hasn't played well this season, so he's going to be an average for me.
Fair enough. All right, let's do our final. Do we have two or one? No, I'm sorry. We have two more. Ji-Man Choi. Ji-Man Choi, for me, this is tough because against righties, he's absolutely lethal. I think in his career, he's hitting like 291 with like an 888 OPS against righties, but he doesn't play against lefties. He's strictly a platoon guy. I'm going to put him in average, but he's at the end of average because I can't put a guy higher than average that only plays against, half the games. But against righties, Ji-Man Choi is one of the best first basemen in baseball.
He is, and he certainly scared me a lot there in the playoffs last year, and especially in that World Series against my Dodgers. So this is a guy who's certainly really good, and he's towards the tail end of his career, no doubt about it. But I love Ji-Man Choi. He's going to be an average for me, but he's still certainly a very talented player. And he certainly he does what Kevin Cash needs him to do: play good defense and don't be terrible at the plate.
Absolutely. And I mean, if we broke this down to versus righties and versus lefties, I'd put him definitely in good against righties, maybe even all-star against righties, but he's below average against lefties, and that's what kind of balances it out to average for me. But final one in the AL East, Ryan Mountcastle, a guy with a lot of talent, a lot of potential. His career off to kind of a meh start. He's had his moments, but he's like many rookies. He's had that, that period of adjusting where he's kind of struggled a bit. For me, he's the best player in below average. But he is trending up. I think he's a little bit behind Dahlbeck, but they both have very bright futures. And this is one of the pieces that the Orioles can't let go.
No, he's certainly, his career just started. He's only 24 years of age, but he certainly had a promising start to his career, and this year's no different. Career he's batting 283. This year he's batting 252. He has 8 homers to go along with 32 RBIs, 24 runs scored, and 3 stolen bases. So he certainly has, that talent. The future is bright for Ryan Mountcastle. He's not in that average tier yet. For me, he's close.
Mm-hmm. He's really close.
Well, I'm going to put him at the bottom of that average tier. I am. He's been one of the better, the better players for Brandon Hyde so far this year. So I like Mountcastle, and the beginning of his career is, really, impressed me. So he's going to be in the bottom of that average category for me. But he certainly has, an incredibly bright future in baseball.
Okay. I can respect that. Let's move on to the NL East. Let's start with a guy that I like a lot, and he's going to be the first person that I put in Superstar, and that's Freddie Freeman, the reigning National League MVP, outstanding defender, hits 300 every year, 30 bombs, just an absolute joy to watch. I don't watch the Braves hardly ever, but when I do, Freddie Freeman's an absolute treat. He deserves to be in this tier by himself. Freddie Freeman, absolute stud, best first baseman in baseball, without a doubt.
Yeah, I have no argument. I have no issue with that at all. He's the best first baseman in baseball, like you said, and I think there's a lot of people that would agree with you. I know there's probably a lot of salty, White Sox fans that say, "Oh, Brady's the best." No, Freddie Freeman's the best, and you're dumb if you think of Brady's the best first baseman in baseball. It's Freddie Freeman. It's been Freddie Freeman for like the last 3 years, so I don't want to hear it. He's the best. He's one of the MLB's superstars right now, and like you said, he deserves to be in this category alone.
He does. Let's move on to the next player in the AL or the NL East. I keep saying AL East, but the NL East. and that's Pete Alonso with the New York Mets. I like Pete Alonso. He had an outstanding rookie season, obviously 52 home runs, a rookie record. He's got a ton of power. He's a better hitter than we saw last year. He's had a little bit of a better start to this year. He's an average defender. I'm going to put him in good, but he's at the top of good, and he definitely could have a couple all-star teams in the future.
Yeah, certainly he's really good, and I think there were he kind of spoiled everybody that rookie year because everybody expected him to be really good after that, and he hasn't lived up to those expectations after his rookie year. He's going to be in good for me also. He's better than he's better than Votto and Santana certainly, but he just hasn't lived up to he hasn't matched those numbers that he put up in his rookie year. And I think that's why guys kind of get burnt out a little bit after having a year like that. But I like Alonso. I like the Mets as a whole. He's going to be at the top of good for me as well.
Okay, let's move on to Rhys Hoskins and the Phillies. I like Rhys Hoskins, I think, more than a lot of people do. And I'm going to put him in all-star, or not in all-star, I'm sorry, in good as well. Do I think he's better or worse than Votto? I'll leave him here for now. I'll debate that. Rhys Hoskins, again, has a lot of power. I don't think he has quite as high of a ceiling as Pete Alonso does, but a lot of power. He's really athletic. He's a strong defender at first base. And his average has gotten better and better over the last couple of years. Rhys Hoskins, he's not Bryce Harper. He's not Andrew McCutchen. He's not one of the best players on the Phillies, but he's a very solid first baseman. And for that, he makes good tier for me.
Yeah, I like Rhys Hoskins. He's a guy that he was good when Kapler was the manager there in Philadelphia, and he's continued to be pretty good with Girardi there. So I like Hoskins. Whether he's better than Joey Votto or not, they're certainly close, no doubt about it. But I would almost put them as the same, the same, talent level right now.
Pretty much. One's trending up and one's trending down.
Right. Even though Votto is older, I still think that experience plays somewhat of a factor. I would probably give the slight edge to Votto right now. But I like Rhys Hoskins, and he's going to be in the good category for me.
Josh Bell with the Washington Nationals. For me, I like that he's a switch hitter. Again, he had a really good year, all-star year with the Pirates a couple years ago, but he's never really been able to replicate that. He's a great switch. He's a switch hitter. He's extremely athletic. He's not a great defender. He's a tier below Carlos Santana for me. Very similar players, switch hitters, not great defenders, but can hit from both sides of the plate. But Santana gets a little bit of an edge for me. Josh Bell, I'm going to put right over Keston Hiura in average, because I think Bell's a little more consistent than Hiura, but he's towards the top of average for me.
Yeah, me too. I would probably put him in that same spot. He's not quite as good as Sano is. He had a really good year in Pittsburgh a few years back, but like you said, he just hasn't lived up to those same numbers since then. So he's going to be closer to the top of that average category for me. He's better than guys like Hiura, Dahlback, and G-Man Choi, but I like Josh Bell. I still think he has plenty of career left, and he's going to be pretty good for that rest of his career. But he's going to be an average for me.
All right, let's move on to the final first baseman in the NL East, and that's Jesus Aguilar. Aguilar also had a really good year with the Brewers a couple of years ago. Hasn't been the same hitter, but he's been solid in Miami. He's been one of their better hitters, one of their better run scorers. He's not an all-star caliber first baseman by any means, but he's been really solid in Miami. And I know Miami's not a good team, but he's been pretty solid. So I'm going to put him right behind Josh Bell in that average tier. I think both of these guys are pretty similar. Guys that have had really good years where they show their ceiling. They've been solid, not spectacular, and that's why they belong in average.
Yeah, they do. Guys like this, or this whole row, you could argue that are very similar. And the Marlins are a team that they don't expect to be good, but I like this guy a lot. He's certainly been. He's had expectations, but when you're on the Marlins, how high are those expectations, really?
Right.
So this is a guy that I like a lot, but to be honest, it's really just he certainly has the talent, but I think the team that he's on has kind of held him back a little bit.
It has. Let's move on to the where would we be now? We just finished the NL East, so we're on to the AL West. Let's start with a guy that I really, really, really like, and I think you like him a lot too, Parker, and that's Matt Olson with the Oakland A's. I'll let you rank him first. I think I know where I want to put him. I think you're going to agree, but I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I love Matt Olson. Personally, I'm going to put him in All-Star. I think he's that good, and he's he's a career 250 hitter, but he's certainly above. He's batting better for his career this year. He's hitting 276. He has 15 homers,
Mm.
41 RBIs, and 200 total plate appearances. So he's been certainly one of Bob Melvin's more consistent guys. I like Matt Olson a lot. He just pimps home runs. He's just really fun to watch. He's an all-star guy for me, Shea. He really is.
I agree with you. I was going to put him in All-Star as well. He hits for a ton of power. He's a good enough contact hitter that it doesn't hurt the A's. And he's one of the best defensive first basemen in baseball. And I don't think enough people talk about that. This is a guy that's won a Gold Glove. He's an all-star first baseman for me as well. He's not having the same kind of year that Vladdy is this year, but Vladdy's having an MVP caliber year. And if Vladdy wasn't having the year of his life right now, Matt Olson would probably be, top three in the voting for all-star first baseman. And I think he's got a couple more all-star teams in him before his career's over.
He does, and like you said, if Vlad Jr. wasn't having the really good year that he's had to this point, Matt Olson is easily top two in MVP voting.
I agree. Let's move on to a very talented young first baseman in the AL West, Jared Walsh with the Angels. I'm going to put him in good. I don't know where I'd put him in good. I think let me rearrange this. I think Voigt's at the end. I'll put him over Hoskins and probably over Votto. He's probably in between Santana and Votto for me. He hits for a ton of power from the left side. He's great against righties. Hits about 270, 280. He's got a lot of pop. Like I said, I think he has like 12, 13 home runs this year. And he's a pretty solid defender as well. He's very young. He's got a lot of room to grow, but he's already a really solid first baseman. Everyone talks about Trout, Rendon, and Ohtani, and deservedly so. But Jared Walsh has stepped up and been another really solid hitter for this team.
Keep in mind, the Angels DFA'd Albert Pujols to start this guy at first base. So he's, you're not nothing if the team gets rid of a guy named Albert Pujols to start you at first base. So
right.
He's certainly really good. He's batting just a tick under 300 at 297 this season. He's got 13 homers, 40 RBIs. He's really good, and he's been one of the more consistent guys for a sleeper, a sneaky good guy for Joe Madden this year. Like you said, you're all about Rendon and Trout and Ohtani, but Jared Walsh has been sneaky good. I'd probably put him up there with Alonso at the top of that good category.
I can't argue with that. Let's get on to the next one, and that's going to be Yuli Gurriel with the Astros. This one you might not like this one, Parker. I know that he was involved in a cheating scandal. I know that a lot of people don't like this guy, but he's had a really, really good year. I still think he's a really solid contact hitter with above average power, and he's a good enough first baseman defensively that I'm going to put him right behind Walsh in good tier. I agree with you. I'm going to actually move Santana behind these guys. But I don't think Gurriel is as good as Walsh, but he's still a good first baseman in my eyes.
Yeah, and I'm honestly over the the whole cheating thing. I can see past it to see when guys are having really good years, and Gurriel's having a fantastic year. He's batting 335, and he's played really well. He's put up MVP caliber numbers this year. He really has. So, 335, 8 homers, 43 RBIs. And he's been really good for Dusty Baker down there in Houston. So he would probably go, in that good category for me as well.
Let's move on to Nate Lowe, a young guy that the Rangers got in a trade with the Tampa Bay Rays. For me, he's below average right now. He's very similar to Bobby Bradley in the sense that I just haven't seen enough of him yet to get a full opinion. But as of right now, he's not a guy that I think of when I think of a top tier first baseman by any means. So he's below average for now. But like I said, very young and has a lot of potential. And with that Rangers team rebuilding, he's going to get a lot of opportunities to improve.
Yeah, he has, and it's hard. It's hard to judge teams like this when they're rebuilding. So, I mean, this guy is certainly has the he has the talent. The talent's definitely there, and this team is, like you said, rebuilding. But if this guy can get into it and just put his head down and work his tail off. He's going to come out on the other side if the Rangers decide to do a pretty like a clean sweep, if you will. He's going to come out on the other side, and it's going to be really good for Chris Woodward or whoever the manager is at the time.
Yeah, he is. Last first baseman here in the AL West is Evan White. I had a lot of expectations for Evan White. This is a guy that hit 280 down in the minors. He's a great defender, but he's hit like for his career like 194 in the major leagues, and I have to put him in below average for now. He's still got a really high ceiling. He's still really young. I still think the Mariners view him as their first baseman of the future, but what I've seen so far is not a good first baseman, so I got to put him in below average.
Yeah, he's going to be below average for me also. A career bat 165. He hasn't played well. He really hasn't. So and there are guys that there are very few guys on this list, maybe none at all, that I would put in the trash category. But Evan White is certainly, he's pretty close. He hasn't been really good at all. So and this year is no different. He's got 144, 2 homers, 9 ribbies. So not good numbers at all for Evan White. He's below average for me also.
Let's get to the final division in baseball. We'll start with your Dodgers, Parker. Where are you putting Muncy?
This one's tough for me because his bat is certainly up there as he's certainly a top tier bat in baseball. His defense is what worries me. Roberts thinks he can play second base. If I'm being 100% honest, Muncy sucks at second base. He does. So I'm going to put him in good still. He's up there. I'm going to put him in good. I don't think he's as good as guys like Gurriel and Walsh. I'd probably put him in between Santana and Gurriel. He's not. He's certainly top tier in the NL West, but he's not as good as guys as in this category. Similar to Alonso, Walsh, and Gurriel. He's in the middle of good for me.
Well, you were a little harder on him than I thought you'd be. I was debating putting him either at the end of All-Star or the top of good, but you put him in the middle. I can get behind putting him in good. I could see. I think you could make an argument why these 5 guys right here are better than Max Muncy, but I still think he's a fringe All-Star caliber player, and I think. Obviously, his defense is not his strong suit, but I think that bat's good enough to be an all-star caliber first baseman for sure.
Yeah, it is. I see where you're coming from. But me, Shay. I'm a big defensive baseball guy, and so I'm a little bit harder on him than I normally would be if I was worried about, not as worried about defensive baseball, but the defensive problems kind of play a little bit more of a little bit more of a factor, if you will, than most other guys would. So Muncy's kind of in that middle pack for me, but he's certainly a good player, no doubt about it.
All right, well, we got 4 more to do. Eric Hosmer in the San Diego Padres. He had a really tough start to his career in San Diego, Parker, but he's really picked it up the last year and a half or so. I'm going to put him in good. I'm going to put him right ahead of Santana. I think I'd pick Muncy over Hosmer, but a couple of years ago, I would have put Hosmer in average, and with that contract, that's not good that he was an average. But he's gotten a couple solid years under his belt. He's by no means Tatis or Machado or Cronenworth or Grisham or Pham. He's not a top tier hitter on that team, but he's still solid. He's a great defender, and he's above average bat, so he still finds his way in good for me.
If this is Kansas City, Eric Hosmer, he's all-star for me.
For sure.
Really. Sure. But he's really regressed in San Diego. I'm going to put him probably in the same spot as you are. I think Muncy's the better player still. He's going to be right in the middle of good. He certainly regressed with the Padres, but he's still certainly a talented first baseman, no doubt about it. He's going to be right smack dab in the middle of good category for me.
Yeah, Hosmer in Kansas City was definitely an all-star, so I agree with you there. Brandon Belt, this is an interesting one, and I want to hear your opinion first. Belt, like I said, heading into this year, I would have put him in average, maybe even below average, but a lot of these Giants players really kind of revived their careers. Belt's one of them, and is it enough for you to put Belt back into good?
I think it is. Belt is a guy who's been around for a long time, and he's a career 260 batter. And this season he's kind of bumped up his numbers a little bit. 238 is a number that we really don't see as good, but that's good based on Brandon Belt numbers over the last 2-3 years. So he's going to be towards the bottom of that good category for me. He's done enough this year to kind of prove it that he still has some gas left in the tank. He's batting 238 this year with 8 homers and 21 ribbies. So he's done just enough to kind of squeak into that good tier for me.
He's still a good defender. He gets on base quite a bit, so I can put him at the end of good and be okay with it. Christian Walker. Christian Walker is he has a great bat. He's not a great defender. He's had kind of an up and down career. I'm gonna put him at the end of average. I'll put him at the end of average. I think he has moments where I think I could justify putting him at the end of good, but he also has moments where I'd put him in below average. So I think it kind of balances out where overall he's more times than not an average first baseman.
Yeah, he is. I know this year, if we're basing it on this year, but for career, I think we're doing a little bit of both. He's going to be an average for me. He's hitting just a tick under 200. So not great numbers this year for Walker, but he's proven that he can play well. He'd be an average for me as well.
And our final one here on this first tier list, CJ Cron. Now, heading into this year, I'd put Cron in below average and not bad an eye. But he's had a really good year in Colorado. I'm still going to put him in below average, but he's at the top. Cron's had a really solid year, and if he keeps it up, heading into the All-Star break, he might earn his way back into average.
Yeah, this guy's a former first-round pick, back in 2011. So he was great with the Angels. I know he was in Tampa for a while, but he's kind of revived his career a little bit this year, with the Rockies. He's hitting 252 with 5 homers and 18 ribbies, and it's a guy who's really surprised a lot of people as one of the few bright spots in that Rockies lineup this year. So he's going to be at the top of below average for me as well. If he can get that average up a little bit, he might squeak into average for me. But right now he's still in below average.
Well, that's the first tier list of the show in the books. And Parker, I love being on the radio. So, having a YouTube only show isn't what I'd like to do. But one of the pluses of doing it today is that we're not in a time crunch to hit a commercial break. We would have had to have hit it, 2 or 3 minutes ago. But now we can take our time and kind of break down these tier lists a little more. So we're still going to step away for about 3 minutes so I can use the restroom and grab a drink and stuff like that. But we'll be back in just a few minutes. Hour number 2 coming up. The Bucks beat the Nets and get their way back into this series. We'll break that down. Donovan Mitchell's on pace for 60 points tonight. And NFL quarterbacks. We have another tier list coming up in hour number 2. Parker, any closing thoughts before we hit the break?
I'm loving these tier lists. I got.
Yeah, they've been a lot of fun. We hope you're enjoying them as much as we are. We're going to step away for just a few moments. When we come back, hour number 2. Keep it real. Keep it locked. We'll see you in a few. All right, we're not on break, or we're not on radio today, so a little bit of a quicker break. Like I said, just had to get some stuff together. But Parker, really quick before we get into the stuff we're planning for hour number 2, I think I found like a new top tier lunch option for when you come back to Wright State in the fall. Okay.
What's that?
So I went to McAllister's today for lunch. They have a really good lunch deal, by the way, if you're in Fairborn. 2 half sandwiches for $10.
Hmm.
And you can substitute any your second sandwich for a soup or a salad or whatever. But that's not bad because McAllister's makes some really good food. But I found this. Let me try and remember what it was called: spicy jalapeno turkey crunch sandwich. And so what it was, okay, roasted turkey, jalapeno chips, like fried jalapeno potato chips,
Hmm.
and then it had avocado, spicy mayo, bacon, and it was all on a toasted jalapeno roll.
That sounds money.
Uh-huh. It was very, very good. Oh, so if you're in the Fairborn area tomorrow for orientation, I mean, I think Wright State's hooking you up with food in the Union Market. But if you're like me and you need like 8 meals throughout the course of the day, McAllister's is the place to be, right by Fairfield Commons. So if they want to sponsor me and give me some free food for shouting them out, they can. But I'll be there regardless. So
Yeah, yeah. McAllister's is certainly, really good. I love it.
uh-huh. It sure is. And I mean, we're kind of spoiled. There's 2 really, really good deli options like across the street from each other on Colonel or on Fairfield, where you have McAllister's on the side of the Commons, and then on the other side you have Jason's, and Jason's is really good too.
Yeah, yeah, it certainly is.
So let's get into a little bit of NBA talk before we get into our second tier list of the show. The Brooklyn Nets, or I shouldn't say the Brooklyn Nets, the Milwaukee Bucks. I don't want to say saved their season, Parker, because if they lost, they'd still be alive. But let's be real. You're not coming back from down 3-0 to the Brooklyn Nets. They saved their season tonight winning that game. And it was a scrappy, ugly defensive game. 86-83 was the final. But Milwaukee did what they had to do to win. And that's how Milwaukee's going to beat this team. You can't outscore a team like Brooklyn. You got to beat them in the trenches, and you got to out ugly them. And Milwaukee did it tonight.
Yeah, they did. And think about this, Shay. If I can do some quick math here, 68 of their 86 points were scored by Giannis and Chris Middleton.
Uh huh.
Giannis had 33, Chris Middleton had 35. So, like you said, scrappy, ugly, defensive battle. But the less ugly team won tonight, and that was the Milwaukee Bucks. And they come out winners, like you said. They needed a big win. They really did. Durant had 30, Kyrie had 22. They're without James Harden. And I think that they showed some that a little bit of weakness tonight with that. So the Bucks get a big win, and they played well tonight.
Yeah, they did. And I think, like I said, I mean, you're not this Milwaukee team. Mike Budenholzer coach team is not going to outscore teams. I mean, Milwaukee with Giannis can score 120, but you can't count on Milwaukee to score 120 every night and just outscore teams. Brooklyn can, mess around in their sleep and put up 120, and that's just kind of how they're built. But if Milwaukee wants a shot in this series, they have to win games like they won tonight. You have to make Kevin Durant uncomfortable. How good was PJ Tucker tonight on Kevin Durant? He didn't shut him down because you can't shut down Kevin Durant, but that was the most uncomfortable I've seen Kevin Durant in 3 months.
Yeah, PJ Tucker scored no points. He scored no points, 1 rebound, 2 assists. He played 33 minutes. Where he shined was defensively against Kevin Durant. Really played well tonight.
I was going to say, I usually troll people for playing 20 plus minutes and not scoring, but PJ Tucker had one hell of an impact on the defensive end. Like I said, there's nobody on the planet that can shut down Kevin Durant. I don't care who you are. Giannis, LeBron, Ben Simmons, Nikola Jokic, or not Jokic, Rudy Gobert. Nobody on the planet can shut down Kevin Durant. But PJ Tucker played about as well as you can play on Kevin Durant tonight.
He did, and the Bucks really needed this one. It was an ugly game. I don't think I've ever seen the 86-83 game in like 5 years. It's been a long time since I've seen both teams not score 100. Or less than
90. Yeah,
less than 90, I should say. So this was an ugly defensive game. But the Bucks win this one, and they really needed it.
Yeah, they did. They sure did. It's an interesting. I mean, I still think the Nets win this series because I mean, the Bucks won tonight, but they had to fight for 48 minutes for it, and the Bucks basically have to play perfect basketball to beat this Brooklyn Nets team. But what I saw tonight, if they're able to replicate it, they have a shot. The problem is, I don't know if you can hold Brooklyn under 100 points 4 times.
No, you can't. And this team's tough. They're the NBA's they're the 2021 Super Team of the Year. Every year there's a super team, and this year it's the Brooklyn Nets. And to see them held under 100 is insane. They only scored 11 points in the first quarter, only scored 18 in the fourth quarter. So I know really strong defensive basketball from the Bucks tonight. And they really deserve to win this one because they really played well.
They did. They really did. So let's move on to a game that's in progress right now. It's about to go to the second halftime. Utah Jazz and the LA Clippers. Right now it's 54-50. Utah leads. And Donovan Mitchell, another day at the office. Kawhi has 11 points right now for the Clippers. Off the bench, again, the Luke Kennard show. He hit a 3 at the end of the first quarter. He's really stepped up in the last 3 or 4 games for the Clippers. But Donovan Mitchell, already 21 points on 64% shooting. And Clarkson has 15 as well. They've combined for 36 of the 54 points for the Jazz. Donovan Mitchell is turning into a Hall of Fame caliber player in the playoffs. I mean, this guy is only still 24 years old, and he's already got an unbelievable reputation in the playoffs. I mean, this guy could easily, if the Jazz don't get knocked out in this series, what he did in the first round against Memphis and now what he's doing against the Clippers, he might average 40 a game in the playoffs.
It's insane. And now that we're talking about the Clippers, I am pretty certain that I said the Clippers are playing the Bucks earlier, and that is wrong. They are playing the Jazz. The Bucks are playing the Nets. So I apologize for that. But
you were right that they both played tonight. So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So like you said, Mitchell, unbelievable.
He's really, really good.
Really good. And like you said, he certainly has a lot of talent to back him up there. Gobert is the defensive player of the year this year. Bojan Bogdanovic is a heck of a sharpshooter. They're in Utah with Mitchell and Gobert, and then you have some strong bench players as well. Joe Ingles is a really good player, and Jordan Clarkson has 15 right now, right before halftime. So this is going to be a close one. It really is. I think it's going to be more high scoring than the earlier game was, but I'm excited to see who comes out on top here tonight.
I am too, and let's play a quick game. I didn't plan on doing this, but before we get into the NFL tier list, these 7 players are all under the age of 25 years old. I want you to rank them on number 1, number 7, who you think has not just the brightest future, but if you were a GM of a team, who would you pick to build your team on from 1 to 7? So here are the 7 players: Ja Morant, Zion Williamson, Jason Tatum, Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell, Luka Doncic, and who did I forget? Trae Young. So let me run through those one more time for everyone at home. You can play as well. Trae Young, Ja Morant, Zion Williamson, Luka Doncic, Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell, and Jason Tatum.
1 to 7 for me if I'm starting a franchise, right?
Yes.
All right. So personally, if I'm starting a franchise right now, my number 1 is Luka.
I agree.
love Luka so much,
I agree.
And the talent that he has right now is really good. And I love Luka. Number 2 for me is going to be Devin Booker.
Okay.
And I love Devin Booker. He has all the talent in the world. He's one of the guys who really helped beat these Lakers in this really in this series. So I mean, I love D Book. So he can be number 2 for me. Number 3 is going to be Jason Tatum. I love Jason Tatum. He's single-handedly won almost every game that Boston played in the playoffs this year. And he's really good. And I'm sure Brad Stevens loves having him around, and whoever the new coach is going to have going to be in there is going to love having him around too. Number 4 for me is going to be Trae Young. I love Trae Young. He certainly has all the talent in the world. and he plays really well for Coach McMillan down there in Atlanta. Number 5 for me is going to be. This is tough. Who is that 7th player? I'm sorry.
You have 3 left: Donovan, Ja, and Zion.
Donovan. That's one I forgot. Okay. Actually, I take that back. I'm gonna put Donovan at number 4.
Okay, and then Trey at 5.
Trey at 5.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna put Ja Morant at 6 and Zion at 7.
Okay.
I'm not as high on Zion as most people are, but Zion. I'm not discounting Zion's talent. He's really good.
I mean, Zion averaged 27 a game this year as a 20-year-old kid. So,
right. So
Zion's got a bright future for sure.
Yeah, that's my list. I mean, number 1 has got to be Luka because he's a superstar right now, and he's been the superstar of the entire playoffs. So that's my list: Luka, Devin Booker, Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, Trae Young, Ja Morant, and Zion Williamson.
Mine's a little different. It's pretty similar. I flip-flopped. Ow. I just touched the top of my lamp and burnt the crap out of my hand. Oh, why did I do that? I just casually put my hand on top of the lamp like I wouldn't touch a light bulb. I'm almost 22 years old, folks. I'm about to get a college degree, and I still do stupid stuff like this. But mine's pretty similar. I flip-flopped a few here and there, but I do Luka number 1 as well. For me, I have Donovan Mitchell at number 2. Just spitting image of Dwayne Wade to me. I love the way he plays, and for me, clutchness is clutch is a factor that I use in player talent, and Donovan is clutch, and there's no doubting that now. So I put Donovan at 2. I have Tatum at 3, Booker at 4. So we just flip-flop Mitchell and Booker. I still think Devin Booker's a hell of a player. I think Donovan's done more with less at times, where Booker, until Chris Paul got there, the Suns never made the playoffs. So that's the only difference for me. I still think Booker's a multiple-time All-Star heading forward. Maybe even contending for MVPs. I don't know. Number 5, Trae Young. Number 6, I have Zion. Number 7, I have Ja Morant. I think they're both very talented. But I think Ja Morant has been surrounded with more talented pieces. And he's been a great leader, and he's gotten the Grizzlies to the playoffs. The only reason why I went with Zion is because Zion's a year younger, and Zion put up 27 points and 8 rebounds a game this year as a 20-year-old, and that's something that I just couldn't look over.
Yeah, that's fair. I understand, the Donovan Mitchell number 2 thing, and I wouldn't argue with it. It was
all 7 of these guys are going to be studs. So
yeah, no doubt about it. And it was really close between 2, 3, and 4 for me. It really was. But yeah, I mean, very similar list, but all these guys certainly have the
right
worlds of talent.
Very similar. I mean, I've heard it for the last 6 months, and I totally agree. The future of the NBA is in very good hands. We're going to be moving on from stars like LeBron and Kevin Durant and Blake Griffin and eventually James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Damian Lillard. But the up and coming talent: Zion Williamson, Ja Morant, Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker. I mean, the future of the NBA is in very good hands. This is the most talented the NBA has ever been.
Yeah, it really has, and I think these playoffs prove it. I've had so much fun watching these playoffs. More fun than the last time. The Pacers won a playoff series, and that was 10 years ago. So this has been certainly one of the most entertaining playoffs that we've had in a long time.
All right, let's get to this tier list. We don't have to actually stop at 2 hours today because it's YouTube only. So if we have to go, 10 minutes over to get everything done, we can. But let's get to it really quick because I don't want to go 30 minutes over. But we still got a lot to get into. Like I said, if you look at this list, if you're watching on YouTube, you're looking at this list. We're not going to do every quarterback on here. We're going to do notable backups, first-round rookies, and every starting quarterback. So Parker, I will let you. I mean, obviously, we don't have divisions. Oh, I guess we do have divisions. What am I thinking? It's the NFL has divisions. But do you just want to go in team order? They did put them all in team order for us, so we can try that.
Let's do team order. I like the sound of that.
All right. So we'll start with Jimmy Garoppolo. He's going to be the starter at the start of the year. And so how they have this ranked is elite, borderline elite, great, good, borderline starter, backup, third string, and just don't know. which is where I think we'll put a lot of rookies. For Jimmy, I have him in borderline starter. I think he's good enough to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, but he's never going to be good enough to be a good starting quarterback in the NFL. So he's kind of stuck in purgatory between good and backup. He's basically the definition of borderline starter for me.
This one's tough. I mean, Jimmy G is a guy. People forget he's been to a Super Bowl. He's won the Super Bowl. Granted, as a backup, but he knows what it takes to get there, and he's gotten the team there. A few years back. So I'm going to put him in good. I still think he certainly has talent. And this battle between him and Trey Lance is going to be an interesting one. I still think he's going to be in the good tier for me. But it's going to be interesting to see what Kyle Shanahan wants to do here as we get closer to the year.
One of the backups we are going to do is Nick Mullins, and I think he just goes in backup for me. I don't think he's terrible. I wouldn't put him in third string, but I think we know enough about him. He's played in enough action over the last couple of years. He's not going to be, a starting caliber quarterback, but he's a solid backup.
He is. I'm going to put him in backup also. I'm not going to put him as low as third string because he's shown flashes of being a capable backup in this league. I like Nick Mullins. He's certainly, he's played well in the chances that he's gotten. So I'm going to put him in backup as well.
All right, let's move on to the Chicago Bears. Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton is also, for me, going to go in borderline starter. He's going to start the season most likely as the starting quarterback of the Chicago Bears. I think he's good enough to be the quarterback of an average football team, but if the Bears want to make the playoffs, they're eventually going to move on to Justin Fields, and I don't think Andy Dalton's ever going to be considered a team's multiple year option as a starting quarterback anymore.
Yeah, this one's I'm 100% on your side with this one. Dalton's borderline starter. He started the last the last last 10 games or whatever it was for Dallas last year after Dak got hurt. And he played well, about as well as you can with that team. So, like you said, he's going to start for Matt Nagy in Chicago this season. But I think it's only a matter of time before Justin Fields takes the field.
Yeah. Nick Foles. Nick Foles, he's been a backup for the majority of the second half of his career, but he's another guy that I'm going to put in borderline starter because he obviously won a Super Bowl running the Eagles offense. And I can't say that he's worse than Andy Dalton. I think these two guys are very similar, and so they're both going to be in borderline starter for me.
Yeah, it's another guy who, like you said, he's won a Super Bowl with the Eagles as a backup. One of the great stories in recent memory of the NFL. But in Chicago, he hasn't really panned out like I think they've wanted him to. So he's a borderline starter for me as well. I think all three quarterbacks on the Chicago Bears roster are borderline starters right now. It's just going to be a fight to see who actually wins out.
Yeah. Let's move on to the Bengals. Joe Burrow. I'm going to try my best not to be biased here. Yes, I think Joe Burrow has the potential to be elite, borderline elite, whatever you want to call it. But as of right now, he's good. He's good. If the Bengals keep him upright and he gets through a full season, he might be great by the end of the season. But as of right now, he's 23 years old. I'm not going to blow it out of the water. He's a good quarterback.
He is. I haven't seen enough. In the time that he did play last year, he was good. And at times he was great, but he's not. I have not seen enough of the greatness to put him in that category. So he's good. He's good, and he's going to be in the good category for me. The Bengals I'm confident in the Bengals, or else I wouldn't have projected them to win 11 games and be second in this division. And that may backfire horribly. But
very well could.
Yeah, very well could, and I may be booed out of the studio and kicked off radio for that, which is fine. I'm okay with that.
Hey, even if the Bengals suck, I won't roast you too hard because I appreciate the support because even Bengals fans don't support the Bengals as much as you did when we did our predictions.
Oh yeah, but I think Joe Burrow is he's good. He's not great yet. So like you said, if he can be really good this year. Maybe he'll bump up into that category, but he's good right now.
He sure is. Let's move on to the Buffalo Bills. We'll start with their backup, and that's Mitch Trubisky. Mitch Trubisky, I can't even put him in borderline starter anymore. He has athleticism, but he just does not have that it factor to me to even be a starter at this point in his, from what I've seen from him. So for me, he's he's closer to Nick Mullins than he is to guys like Garoppolo, Dalton, and Foles.
Yeah, he is. I mean, I personally don't think he should have ever started a game in his career until he was ready. This is a guy that one of the guys that you draft and you put behind an experienced veteran to kind of learn from. And I think if he had that, he would be a lot better than he is right now. But he was just kind of thrown in there and said, figure it out. So he's a backup for me as well. He's not as good as he wasn't as good as the Bears were hoping he would be. But who knows? Maybe a guy like Josh Allen can help him kind of right the ship a little bit, and maybe he'll become a little bit of a better player.
And now, speaking of Josh Allen, this is tough. I was debating. We did Trubisky first because I was debating whether I wanted to put him in borderline elite or elite. I'm gonna put him in elite. Maybe that's a little bit of a hot take. I don't know, because I know we're probably there's going to be a lot of people that say, "Well, save elite for guys like Brady and Mahomes." And yeah, we're going to put Brady and Mahomes in elite, but I think Josh Allen's earned it. I mean, this is a guy that was the quarterback of a team that won 13 games a year ago. Gave the Chiefs everything they could handle. He's got MVPs in his future, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if he took the Bills to a couple Super Bowls. Josh Allen's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, and for me, he's elite.
I agree with you. He's going to be elite for me also. Yeah, and to see what he did last year was really good. And like you said, I agree with the take that he's top 5 in the league. He is. The Bills are really good, and I'm excited to see what they do this upcoming year. Like you said, he has some MVPs in his future, maybe even some Super Bowls. So he's going to be elite for me also.
Good. I'm glad you didn't put him in like great and make me feel like I totally overhyped him. Let's move on to the Broncos. Drew Lock. Drew Lock, I still think has more potential than guys like Dalton and Foles, but I'm going to put him behind Garoppolo. He's a borderline starter. He's got one more year to prove it in Denver. I don't know if he's ever going to be the guy, but he's still got, a shred of potential left that I'll put him over guys like Dalton and Foles.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I think he's, and he's not as good as Garoppolo is. But he's still early in his career. He still has the potential to kind of work out the kinks and be better. But he hasn't proven to me that he has very much potential. So the potential is there to be better than what he has been, but he hasn't shown it. He hasn't shown that he wants to be better. So he's going to be in that borderline starter for me. That category for me as well, in between Dalton and Garoppolo.
Right. And I know that I'm a Bengals fan, and I know that everything I say regarding the Bengals is going to be taken as I'm just a Homer Bengals fan. But there's, two young quarterbacks that, have Joe Burrow's only played 8 games in the NFL, but you can tell it doesn't matter if it's Bengals fans or just football fans in general. People talk about Joe Burrow differently than they talk about Drew Lock. And I can't put Lock over a guy like Garoppolo. I can't even consider putting him anywhere near a guy like Burrow because, Lock, while he has potential, no one ever thought Lock would be an MVP candidate and would be the guy that maybe took the Bengals to the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow, just already 8 games into his career, has such a higher expectation, and he's already played a lot better on the football field.
Yeah, he has, and Burrow's definitely the better player. He's the number 1 overall pick in the draft. I think Drew Lock was like late first round or something like that.
I think it was second round, but yeah.
Yeah. So he's a guy. Burrow should have more expectations. He should.
I agree.
And being the number 1 overall pick in the draft, you have the most expectations out of anybody. But I think Drew Lock certainly has the potential to be better. He just hasn't proved to me that personally that he wants to be better. So he's in that borderline starter for me position as well. But he's a tick under Garoppolo.
Yeah. Baker Mayfield with the Cleveland Browns. I am actually going to put him ahead of Burrow in the good tier. Burrow has the higher ceiling. I think when it's all said and done, Burrow is going to be a better quarterback because I think Burrow has a better arm and Burrow has more talent with his throwing ability. But right now, Baker's the better quarterback and Baker's the more proven guy and Baker's the better leader. So right now, I have Baker Mayfield higher.
I agree with you. He's not in that great category for me yet. And that's all going to depend on how the Browns pan out this year. I think they're going to be a really good team. I think they're one of the biggest threats to the Chiefs in the AFC behind the Buffalo Bills. But I like Baker. A lot of people, he gets a bad rap for being, too, cocky or arrogant. I just think he's really damn confident. And
Right. Right. I was going to say, I take it more as confidence than cockiness.
yeah, yeah, and I think he's, he certainly has the talent to be really good. And I would put Baker in that, above Burrow in that good category as well.
Okay, well, let's go to Tom Brady, the greatest football player that's ever played. He's elite for sure. Obviously, 7 Super Bowls. Obviously, I'm putting him over Josh Allen. Yes, Josh Allen's the better athlete. Yes, Josh Allen has the better arm strength. But Tom Brady's a winner everywhere he's gone. Tom Brady is still probably the most dangerous player on the football field because that dude just always finds a way to win. If you don't put Tom Brady anywhere except for elite, your football opinion just does not belong here.
I have 5 words for you, and that's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
Tom Brady should be, well, 6. Tom Brady should be number 1.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you can't.
That's all I got, Shay. That's all I got.
You can't put. I mean, if anyone listening to this or anyone watching this, if you thought you'd put Brady in great or borderline elite, what are you thinking? He's won 7. I don't even like him. He's won 7 Super Bowls.
He's been in 10 Super Bowls.
Right.
And won 7.
I don't like Tom Brady. I root for him to lose, but at this point, you have to acknowledge him as the greatest football player of all time.
For me, he's like Derek Jeter. I don't like him, and certainly there are moments that make me want to like him, like the avocado tequila thing.
That was hilarious. That was hilarious.
Those are moments where I want to like him, or the trash talk with Phil Mickelson during the match. Another thing that I loved outrageously. And it's making me really hard not to like him. But you can't deny how great he is.
No, you can't. And like I will admit, I've liked Tom Brady a lot more in Tampa than I did in New England. He's been a lot more funny and a lot more easy to tolerate in Tampa Bay. I think Tampa's almost kind of let him open up and come out of his shell a little bit, and he's been. I mean, I don't know how I want to word it. I couldn't stand him in New England. I still don't want him to win in Tampa Bay, but I think he's a little bit more likable and he's definitely funnier.
So I think here's what it is. I think when he was in New England, he felt more like it was more of a job, but now in Tampa, he's just having fun.
Yeah,
and I think that's what it is. He's just going down there and he's just going out there and having fun. And I think that's why we've seen a whole new different side to Tom Brady. I really have.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, let's move on to Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is very, very good. I think he's going to be one of the 3 or 4 prime candidates for MVP this year. I think the Cardinals are going to be really good. I debated putting him in borderline elite. I don't think he's quite there yet. I'm going to put him in great. He's really, really good. And obviously, if he's in contention for an MVP this year, if he wins MVP, he's going to be in borderline elite by the end of the year.
Yeah, he's close to that borderline elite category for me. He really is. He's not quite there yet. He's going to be great for me also. I will say this until the day I die. These football players that are in between baseball and football should have picked baseball. I'll say that for my until to my grave. I will take that to my grave. But Kyler Murray is certainly one of the best, a rising star in the league right now. If not, he already is a star.
Right.
He's not quite to that borderline elite category for me right now, but I'm going to put him in great.
And people forget Kyler Murray's still only 23 years old. I mean, this guy's still got 4 or 5 years before he hits the prime of his career. So the way he's playing right now, he could have 2 MVPs by the time he's in his prime, which is insane. Let's move on to the LA Chargers. Justin Herbert. Herbert, a little different from Joe Burrow. He got to play through a full season. I know they're the same age. They came out of the same draft class. I think Herbert's earned the right to be in great. He's not on the same level as Kyler for me, but he's in great. And I think Burrow could be there by the end of this year. But as of right now, Herbert's got more time on the field, and Herbert's obviously put up really, really good numbers. So I have him in great.
Yeah, I think he deserves to be in that great category also. He certainly has, he did a lot more with I think less last year. certainly he has, guys like Keenan Allen and Hunter Henry, not anymore, but he had Hunter Henry, Mike Williams there in LA. So he has a new coach. We'll see how he figures out with this new coach. And they've upgraded the offensive line, so I think Herbert is going to be, great, if not borderline elite by the end of the year.
All right, well, let's move on to a guy that I think this one's really easy, Parker. Patrick Mahomes. Well, yeah, I mean, bust, right? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Patrick Mahomes is the most talented quarterback in the NFL. He has the best arm. He's insane with he has like 18 different arm slots that he can throw out of. He looks like a sidearm pitcher half the time. He's a winner. He's won multiple MVPs. He's won a Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes is the most talented NFL quarterback. I only have him in second because Tom Brady is, like you said, he deserves to be number one. But Patrick Mahomes, most talented player. It's like with the Parker, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but the opinion I hold on LeBron James versus Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan has the greatest resume in the history of basketball. LeBron James is the best basketball athlete. It's the same thing with these two. Patrick Mahomes is the best football player in the NFL right now in terms of quarterbacks. Tom Brady has the best resume and is the greatest football player of all time.
What Shea said. I'm kidding, but yeah, Mahomes. We all know how good he is, and he's personally. I've said this before. I firmly believe that no one is worth $500 million if you're an athlete. Nobody, no matter how good you are, no one's worth $500 million. Quite honestly, unless you're Tom Brady. But Mahomes is really good. He's a Super Bowl champion, multiple time MVP already, and he's still only to 25 or 26 or something like that. So he's still has plenty of career left, and he's gonna be really good for a long time.
He might be the first ever active player and owner. With the way that contract's set up, he might be able to buy the Chiefs.
He might honestly, you're right. He's a part owner of the Kansas City Royals, for Christ's sake.
Yep, he sure is. All right, let's move on. I want you to take the lead on this one because I'm curious on your thoughts. Carson Wentz. Where are you putting Carson Wentz? He's obviously been an MVP candidate in the past. He had a really down year last year. You can take into consideration a little bit of last year and the career he's had altogether. But where are you putting Carson Wentz?
This one is really hard for me, and it shouldn't be hard, but it's really hard. I'm gonna put him at the bottom of good.
Okay.
Because I still think he's has the talent to be a starter in this league. He wasn't good last year. Everybody knows he wasn't good last year. No. I'm still on a we'll see basis with Carson Wentz. I still think he'll get the job done as a starter. And his best year came under Frank Reich, and everybody knows that. So I'm on a we'll see basis with Carson Wentz. I debated putting him at the top of borderline starter. I still think he has more talent than Jimmy G, but I'm going to put him at the bottom of good.
Okay, that's fair. I was going to put him right above Jimmy Garoppolo, so we're in very similar positions here. I think Wentz, like you said, I think Wentz has more talent than Jimmy Garoppolo does. But if he's in good, he's over here in good. He's not Baker or Burrow. So, but I'm okay with that. Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott gets a lot of bad rep because he's the quarterback of the Cowboys. Dak Prescott's really good. He's not Kyler, and maybe Herbert's more talented than him. But as of right now, I'm going to put him over Herbert just because he's proven it for longer. I think Dak Prescott's a great quarterback.
Yeah, this one's tough for me. He's had some really unfortunate luck with injuries. I would still, I would put him in that great category, but I'm going to put Herbert ahead of him because I don't know how he's going to play after coming off these injuries. So I'm going to put Herbert ahead of Prescott, but he's still going to be in that great category for me.
Okay. Obviously everyone, 98% of football fans hate the Cowboys, and by default, then 98% of football fans hate Dak Prescott. But I don't like the Cowboys, and I don't like to see the Cowboys succeed, but I do really like Dak Prescott, and he's a really good quarterback.
He is, and he's had, like I said, He's had some really unfortunate luck, and it sucks to see him have a very similar injury to Alex Smith. Um, but I think he's going to come back and he's going to kind of ease back into things. But I'd still put Herbert ahead of him. And like you said, I don't like the Cowboys. I think by default, you got to hate the Cowboys if you're not a Cowboys fan. So,
Yeah, yeah.
and Stephen A's tirades about the Cowboys make me laugh so hard. But yeah, I'm still going to put Herbert ahead of Dak Prescott.
Fair enough. All right. Well, let's do Tua Tagovailoa with the Dolphins. I'm going to do Tua a favor and put him in don't know because what we saw last year didn't look very good. But I don't want to put Tua in borderline starter because I still think he has a ton of potential. Obviously, he was the sixth overall pick or the fifth overall pick in the draft. So I'm going to put him in don't know. I need to see a little bit more of Tua before I form a full opinion on him. He could very well end up with Burrow and Baker and good. He could very well end up with Jimmy G and Drew Lock and borderline starter. So I just don't know with Tua yet. I got to see more.
Yeah, I got to see more also. Yeah, I'd put him in that don't know category also. I just didn't see enough, and what I did see didn't impress me. It really didn't. So, and I think the left-handed thing kind of throws guys off a little bit, but we'll see. I'm also on a we'll see basis with Tua. I don't know what I'm going to see out of Tua this year. And they have Jacoby Brissett there in Miami as a backup option. We'll get to Jacoby Brissett with our next guy, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I'm on a we'll see basis with Tua. I am.
Yeah, and speaking of Jacoby Brissett, he is next up. I'm going to put him as the highest rated quarterback in the backup tier. I think he's a top 3 or 4 backup quarterback in the NFL, and I think he's the best backup that we've covered so far. I might even put him as a borderline starter because I think he honestly might be more valuable than Nick Foles.
I'm going to put him as that borderline starter. I'd put him ahead as Nick Foles. The Colts went 4-12 in 2017, but he didn't. Brissett didn't play horrible. He's proven that he can come in and lead an offense and play well. He's going to be in that borderline starter category for me as well. I don't think he's quite as good as Dalton. Honestly, I might put Dalton above Drew Lock and put Brissett.
Honestly, the more I think about it, honestly, Dalton might be the best backup quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, he certainly is. They're not in that backup category right now. If Dalton is a backup, he's the best backup in football. He certainly is. So, I think Brissett is really good. I think he's better than Drew Lock if Drew Lock doesn't pan out. But if Tua struggles, Brian Flores has an insurance option in Brissett.
He does. So we're, a handful of teams in here. We have 3 elites, Brady, Mahomes, and Josh Allen. We have Kyler, Dak, and Herbert, and great. Burrow, Baker, and Wentz, and good. And then a lot of kind of meh in the middle. And we don't know about Tua. Let's get to Jalen Hurts. This is another dude I'm going to put in don't know. There were moments last year where I thought Jalen Hurts was going to be, the next steal of, the mid-round quarterbacks. And I think it's very possible he started over Carson Wentz. I think it's very possible by the end of the year that Jalen Hurts is in good. But I think it's also very possible that Jalen Hurts is, in backup by the end of the season. So Jalen Hurts, I got to see him over the course of a full season. He has insane athleticism. He has really, really talented leadership. He's just a gamer. I think he's a guy that finds ways to win. But I got to see if he can throw a football for the course of a full season.
Yeah, and like you said, he showed flashes of being good last year. He did, and I just need to see more from Hurts. I really do. And Nick Sirianni is going to have his work cut out for him in Philadelphia because that is not an easy market to be a head coach in. It's really not. And if Doug Peterson struggled in it, and I think he did, and a guy like Andy Reid can handle things like that. He really can. And but we'll see how Sirianni fares. And I think this is Philadelphia kind of hitting the reset button. So we'll see what kind of happens this year with Philadelphia. I'm on a don't know basis with Jalen Hurts as well.
Matty Ice in the Atlanta Falcons. He's won an MVP, Parker, but I'm going to try and judge this as best as I can of where I feel Matt Ryan is right now. I'm going to put him ahead of Burrow and Wentz, but right behind Baker Mayfield. I think Baker offers more at the moment. I still think Matt Ryan's a good quarterback. I still would take him over Joe Burrow right now just because of experience. But I think this is where he belongs because Burrow's got the higher ceiling but less experience. But right now, if I had a choice between Baker Mayfield and Matt Ryan, I think I'd take Baker.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. The choice between Baker and Matt Ryan. I'd still put Matt Ryan in the bottom of great. I would.
Okay.
I still think has that talent that you need to be productive in this league. So I'm gonna put him in the bottom of great. I understand where you're coming from. He hasn't had the greatest of years in the last 2 years, but I still think Matt Ryan is a pretty good quarterback in this league. I'm gonna put him at the bottom of great.
Yeah. That's fair. I think that's fair. I don't dislike Matt Ryan by any means, so I think that it's. I don't think I don't have a problem with that. Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be for me right behind Jimmy Garoppolo in borderline starter. It's if Fitzpatrick's going to start at the start of the year, and that's why I'm not considering him a backup, and that's why I said Andy Dalton is the best backup in football. But let's be real, Ryan Fitzpatrick's the best backup in football.
Yes, he is, and I honestly think he's going to start in Washington this year. Like you said, he's the best backup in football. He's the best beard in football,
Oh yeah,
and
well, he's already made friends with Terry and Curtis. You just look at
yes,
his school board.
yes, yeah. His mom, Coach Rivera, posted that that the
Mm-hmm.
big chalkboard of his
Ryan's first day of year 17.
Yeah. So his teacher is Mr. Rivera. So good for Ryan Fitz. But I like Ryan Fitzpatrick. I really do. He's a likable guy. How do you not like a guy who
Right,
went to Harvard, has been the best
right.
backup football for a long time. He's been on 9 teams and played well on every one of them.
And he wouldn't keep getting opportunities like this if he wasn't one of the most likable dudes in the NFL. You've never heard of anybody having a problem with Ryan Fitzpatrick. You've never heard of a coach saying that he's lazy and that he doesn't have the work ethic. This is a guy that continues to, be a backup quarterback for different teams and mentor young quarterbacks and, start 6 games and ride the bench the rest of the year and continuously get his heart ripped out because he plays well for 4 to 6 weeks and then he gets benched because they go to the younger guy, but he does it because he loves football. And that's a guy that I think any football fan can root for. And I think 99.9% of football fans universally love Ryan Fitz.
I do. I love Ryan Fitz. So, yeah, he went to Harvard, and not only has he, been everywhere in the league almost, but he's insanely smart. Went like I said, went to Harvard. So, I love Ryan Fitzpatrick, and it's going to be interesting to see how he pans out in Washington. I think he'll start. He'll compete with Heineke for the starting job, but Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think is going to be in that borderline starter category for me also.
I'll do Heineke because I think he gets a lot of playing time this year. I'm going to put him in don't know. What we saw in that wild card game last year, very athletic, showed very promising potential in terms of athleticism and his decision making and his winning mentality. But he's only played in like 3 games in the NFL, and it's just like Tua and it's just like Hurts. He showed flashes of having a really bright future, but there's a reason why they brought in Fitzpatrick, and I think it's because most of this Washington organization doesn't know what Taylor Heineke is yet.
Yeah, he got a lot of social media traffic when he competed with Brady in the playoffs. So
He took Brady to the wire, man.
he did, and but I'm in the same boat as you. I'm on a don't know basis with Heineke. One good playoff game isn't enough for me. It's not. So we'll see how he pans out going into the year, and we'll see what Coach Rivera decides to do. I think, like I said, Fitzpatrick's going to be the starter here, but you have a very capable backup, I think, in Heineke if he's not the starter.
So I see Robert Griffin III here, but am I crazy or do we not have Lamar Jackson? Oh no, it's okay. It's because Robert Griffin's not in Baltimore anymore, is it? Okay, so here's Lamar. Let's do Lamar because I'm thinking about Lamar because I saw RG3. So we'll move Lamar up here. Lamar Jackson. This is tough for me. I'm gonna try and evaluate this as on his ability as a football player and not just his ability to throw the football. And if I'm doing that, he's great and he's right behind Kyler Murray for me. His impact on the football field is, definitely noticed. He wins games because he's a gifted athlete. He might be the most athletic player in the NFL. He finds ways to win. He doesn't have a great arm, but he finds ways to win. And for that, I still think he's great at the quarterback position, even though he doesn't throw the best ball.
Yeah, no, I'm not as high on Lamar Jackson as most people are, but I think Kyler Murray's better than he is.
I agree.
I think Dak Prescott is better than he is, but I still think Lamar's in that great category. I mean, he's certainly a threat running the football with his legs. Like you said, he just doesn't have the best arm. He's in that great category for me, but I think he's in between Herbert and Prescott.
That's fair. Dak versus Lamar is a really interesting debate, and that's one that if somebody told me that Dak was better than Lamar, I don't think I'd disagree. And if somebody told me that Lamar is better than Dak, I don't think I'd disagree. It's really close. So let's do next Daniel Jones in the New York Giants. Daniel Jones, I think I know enough about him to give him a rating. I think I like him better than Drew Lock at this point in time. But I'm also going to move Dalton up now because I think Dalton's better than Jones and Lock. I like Jones better than Lock, but I still think he's a borderline starter at best. And I honestly, like I said, I'd take Andy Dalton over him right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. Personally, honestly, I would probably take Brissett over Jones. I really would.
Okay.
Um, I just I don't think Daniel Jones is that great. He shouldn't have been drafted as high as he was. After seeing that, he had a wide open touchdown run and tripped over his own feet, which is the biggest gaff in the NFL last year, but. Yeah, I just don't think Daniel Jones is that great of a quarterback. I think the Giants are very high on him, and more power to them. They know more than me, so I'll let them do what they're paid to do, and evaluate how good Daniel Jones is. But I just don't think he's that great. I really don't. He's going to be a borderline starter for me as well.
Okay, that's fair. I can't argue with that as well. Let's get to the Jaguars, and I want to rank two guys for the Jaguars. Let's start with Gardner Minshew, the guy who has been there for a while. I like Gardner. I think he's better. I mean, obviously he's not Trevor Lawrence, but I think he's better than a lot of people gave him credit for. I'm gonna put him right behind Andy Dalton. I'd take him over Jones. I'd take him over Locke. Brissett, it's a tough call. I'd take Minshew, I think, because he's younger and there's a little more potential there. Uh, I don't know if I can put him over Dalton or not yet. But I think Gardner could. He's always going to be a top tier backup or a really bad starter. I feel like that's the career for Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, Gardner is interesting to me because he has shown flashes of being really good, and it's awesome to see that. But like you said, I put him over ahead of Jones. I think Dalton's better than he is. Um, yeah, I just don't know. It's he's shown flashes of being good, but he's gonna be a guy similar to Dalton. He start for a while, but ultimately his best role is a top tier backup. Um, a great mustache, great hair, but I still think he's Dalton's better than he is, but I don't think Gardner's a starter.
It's fair. Trevor Lawrence, I'm going to put in don't know because we haven't seen him take a snap in the NFL yet. But just hypothetical for fun, if I had to guess where Trevor Lawrence would end up, I'd put him right ahead of Wentz and right behind Burrow. I think this is where I'm thinking for Trevor Lawrence. I'm going to put him in don't know though because we haven't seen him take a snap in the NFL.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think he's that perfect middle between Wentz and Burrow. Um, like you said, he hasn't taken a snap, and we don't know. And like you said at the top of this, I think we're going to put a lot of these rookies in don't know because we haven't seen them play in the NFL. So, like you said, I like that hypothetical positioning between Wentz and Burrow, but we just don't know where they're going to end up.
Yeah, we don't. Let's move on to who is next on our list. This is the Carolina Panthers, Sam Darnold. So Sam Darnold for me, I still think he's got a little bit of potential left in the tank. I'm actually going to put him right ahead of Jones, right ahead of Locke. Minshew versus Darnold. I'll put him ahead of Minshew. It's close. I think Darnold's got a little bit. I mean, he's got a good arm. He obviously did not have a good tenure in New York. I don't think that was all entirely his fault, but he's got a lot to prove in Carolina. He's a borderline starter. I'm not ignorant to the point where I'd put him anywhere near good. And I'd still take Fitzpatrick and Garoppolo over him and probably Dalton as well. But of the three that we have in this category that are young quarterbacks in Jones, Locke, and Darnold, I still think Darnold's got the best chance of succeeding.
Yeah, I think so too. I would honestly put Gardner ahead of Darnold.
That's fair. I went back and forth on that, so that's
Yeah,
fair.
yeah, I understand that, but I think if he has a resurgence in Carolina, I'd love to see it. I love Matt Rule in Carolina, but I just haven't seen enough from Darnold to make me think that he's gonna really pan out in Carolina. I put Gardner ahead of him, but it's close.
Yeah. It is close. It's really close. I think a lot of people have given up on Darnold. I haven't given up on him yet, but I got to see a lot this year. So that's kind of where I sit with Darnold. Let's get to the Lions. Jared Goff, the new man in town in Detroit. I like Jared Goff. I am going to put him where I hypothetically put Trevor Lawrence, right ahead of Wentz, right behind Burrow. I think Goff is a good quarterback. Yeah, he's limited in terms of his potential, but I think he's always going to be a solid above average guy. He's never going to be elite. He's never going to be in this tier with guys like Dak and Herbert and Kyler, but he's also never going to be, what costs teams games. I think he's a very perfect example of what Andy Dalton was early in his career with the Bengals. He won't win you Super Bowls, but you'll never have a top 5 pick if he's your quarterback. I think he'll constantly have you in contention for the playoffs.
Yeah, if we could stack guys on this tier list, I would. I'd put Goff and Burrow on the same spot.
Okay.
I like Jared Goff a lot, and I think he's certainly has the potential to be. Well, I mean not potential. He's shown flashes of being really good. Even in the Super
Yeah.
Bowl. Yeah, but I think Burrow has the higher ceiling for sure. But like you said, Goff won't lose you games, but he's not going to win you a whole lot of games. In crunch time. So I would put Burrow and Goff at the same spot. But Burrow has plenty of time to be in the great category as well as elite.
He does. And that's why I think Burrow kind of I'm fine with putting Burrow in good right now, because if Burrow plays remotely anywhere near what we think he can play at in 3 years, he's going to be in great for sure, maybe even borderline elite. So, let's move on to the Packers. Aaron Rodgers. This one's an elite guy. I put him ahead of Allen and behind Mahomes. Where would you have him?
Honestly, this is going to ruffle some feathers, but
Oh
I
boy,
don't
you
care.
put him in borderline?
I'm going to put him ahead of Mahomes.
Oh, okay, okay. I
I
thought you
really,
were going to put him in borderline elite. I'm like, oh
no,
my
no,
goodness.
no. I'm not that stupid. I'm not that
Okay.
stupid. My
Whoa,
Bengals take was pretty
whoa.
stupid, but I'm not that stupid.
I was like, I know it's after midnight, Parker, but come on, get a drink or something. You're starting to lose it.
Yeah, I'm gonna put him ahead of Mahomes. This whole situation with the Packers is just a mess. But I still think Aaron Rodgers is quite possibly the best quarterback in football right now. Still, I really do. Brady is going to be at the top of this list because what he's done and what he's continuing to do. I still think Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in football. I really do.
Fair.
Um,
I mean, he's the
but
reigning MVP at 37 years old. So
Right. I still think he's really good, and he still is really good. Mahomes certainly has all the talent in the world, as well as Josh Allen. All these guys in this top category are really good, and they're there
yes.
for a reason. But Brady's on top, but Aaron Rodgers is, I'm not going to say a close second because he hasn't won 7 Super Bowls. But I still think Aaron Rodgers has more talent. Well, not more talent, but he's still more established than Mahomes. So I'm going to put him at number 2 in the league.
That's fair. I respect that reasoning. And if we were ranking this based on Jeopardy hosts, Aaron Rodgers would also be in the elite tier.
Oh,
So
no doubt about it.
yeah. Aaron Rodgers just really good at everything that he does, apparently. Let's move on to this is going to be those are all Panthers backups. So we'll skip them. We'll do Cam Newton, and then we'll do Mac Jones. Cam Newton for me. Where would I put Cam? I think I'm going to put Cam in between Dalton and Darnold. Personally, I'd rather have Dalton. I think I can count on Dalton to be more consistent and have me in position to win games than I can with Cam Newton right now. But I would definitely take Cam Newton over what I've seen with Sam Darnold so far. So I think that's a good spot for Cam.
Yeah, it is. I would agree with you. He wasn't good under Bill's system last year. But he certainly still has talent. I would take Dalton over Newton as well. But I can see the reasoning if you take him, higher than guys like Fitzpatrick and Dalton. But I'm going to put him in between Dalton and Darnold as well.
Okay. And Mac Jones, another guy that I assume you're gonna agree, but I'm just gonna slap him in don't know. Hypothetically, where I think he'll end up, probably somewhere right between Garoppolo and Dalton in his first year. I think these three quarterbacks are very similar to what we'll see out of Mac Jones in his first year in New England. But as of right now, like I said, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't. And I think this is one of the more intriguing quarterback competitions for me, because Cam Newton, proven guy, wasn't great last year, and Mac Jones, a highly touted rookie coming out of Nick Saban's offense. So this is going to be a fun one for sure. I don't know about Mac Jones, like all of us don't know about Mac Jones, but I'm excited to watch this one.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. So let's move on now to the Oakland Raiders. Derek Carr. Carr is an interesting case. I'm going to put him in good, and I'm going to put him. I'm debating if I want him at the top of good or right behind Baker. Because Baker's obviously been put in a better position to succeed. I'm going to take Baker, but it's really close. If anyone puts Carr over Baker, I won't be upset.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually put Carr over Baker. Uh,
Okay.
and the main reason for me being Carr's done more with less. He hasn't had a whole lot of great receivers with the exception of Darren Waller. And certainly he has Henry Ruggs, one of the fastest players in football. He's Josh Jacobs, and he certainly, I think, I still think John Gruden's the better coach than Stefanski at this point, because he's more experienced. But it's really close for me, like you said. I understand your reasoning behind it, but Carr's going to be ahead of Baker for me.
That's fair. I don't like it's like with Dak and Lamar. I don't think I could argue one way or the other. Here's a hot take, Parker. We'll see if you agree with me on this one. Matt Stafford. I think he's the third best thrower of the football in the NFL behind Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. He's going in borderline elite for me.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. He's still really good. He's drafted in like 2008, 2009, something like that. But he's still really freaking good. And I love Matt Stafford. I loved him in Detroit, and I think he's going to be even better under Sean McVay in Los Angeles. I'm really excited to see what he does with the Rams.
I am too. I don't think it's a hot take I think Stafford could be in the MVP conversation this year. I do.
Yeah, so too.
Yeah. So let's move on to let's do the Saints. We have Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston. We'll start with Jameis. I'm gonna put Jameis. I would put Jameis over Cam. I think I'd put Jameis over Dalton. And I think I'll put him over Fitzpatrick. I think I'll have him right behind Garoppolo.
This is tough for me. I'm gonna put Jameis in between Dalton and Cam.
Okay.
I'm not as high on Jameis as everyone seems to be. I just need to see more from Jameis. I've seen plenty from Jameis, as far as he's won a passing title. He's thrown for like 30 something touchdowns in Tampa Bay. But let's see him do it in New Orleans. Let's see him do it, with a new team. Let's see him do it as the main guy with a new team. I'm going to put him in between Dalton and Cam, but I'm interested to see how it goes. It would probably be a similar situation with Taysom Hill as well.
Yeah, Taysom. It's hard for me to judge Taysom because I haven't seen him throw the ball that much. So I'm tempted to even put him in. I don't know, but I don't know. I guess I'd put him maybe behind Cam, right ahead of Darnold. I think Jameis has the higher ceiling as a thrower of the football. But it's pretty close. They're both fringe starter guys, I think.
Yeah, they are, and Taysom is tough for me. I'd probably put him honestly in between Darnold and I'm sorry, and Gardner and Daniel Jones, because I haven't seen Taysom throw the football enough. But it's really close. Both of these Saints players, or Saints quarterbacks, are fighting for the same job, and Sean Payton certainly has work cut out for him.
They are. We're rolling right along, trying to get through this as fast as we can. Russell Wilson, for me, I'm not going to put him in elite. He's a top tier quarterback, but he seems to have hot and cold streaks too much for me to put him in elite. He's going to be my best quarterback in borderline elite.
I disagree with you here. I'm gonna put him in elite.
That's fair.
I'm gonna put him at the bottom of elite. I think Josh Allen's the better player, but I still think Russ is in that elite category. And I would hate to be you to see. I would hate to be you when Scotty sees you tomorrow and listens to the show.
Scotty's not coming in tomorrow, so I'm okay until Monday. But yeah, it's tough. I love Russ, so I don't want it to sound like I'm bashing Russ. But for me, with the 4 guys that we have in elite right now, Russ is just the most inconsistent of those 4, and that's the only thing separating it. So I definitely wouldn't be opposed to putting him as the last quarterback in elite. But as of right now, I think these 4 deserve to be, in that tier. So let's move on to Big Ben. Big Ben is very interesting because, if we did this 3 or 4 years ago, I think we'd have Ben in borderline elite, Parker. At least definitely at the top of great. But right now, I'll put him ahead of Wentz. No, maybe not. Maybe I'll put him. I don't know. Because I was going to put him ahead of Wentz because I think he's proven more than Wentz. But they both had bad years last year. I will put him ahead of Wentz, but it's a lot closer than I first thought it was. I'd take Goff, Burrow, Ryan, any of these 5 over Ben right now, and him and Wentz is really, really close. I could even see Ben as the last quarterback in good.
Yeah, it is. If honestly, like I said, it's the same situation with Goff and Burrow. If I could stack guys, I would. Wentz and Ben are in a similar situation. Wentz needs to prove that he isn't as bad as he was last year, and Ben can prove that he can still play after coming off an injury. So these guys are both very similar. I would probably take Ben over Wentz as well. Uh,
It's close, man.
it's tough.
When I first thought about it, I'm like, I'd take Ben. And I'm like, well, maybe not. I don't know. Ben wasn't really all that good.
This is really close for me. Like you said, closer than I thought. By a hair, I'm gonna take Wentz because of the ceiling, the future. But it's really close for me. Closer than I, never would have expected this.
It's really close. It's really, really close. Let's talk about Deshaun Watson. Watson, I like a lot. I know that he's had a lot of talk surrounding him over the last couple of months. I'd put him in between Russ and Stafford in borderline elite.
I would too. Like you said, he has off the field issues, but this is going strictly on player talent, and Deshaun has a lot of it. So he's gonna go in between Wilson and Stafford is for me as well.
Deshaun Watson, obviously, he was Kyler Murray before it was cool. So I think, if Deshaun does get a chance to play football this year, I think it's going to be, a really, really exciting and opportunity. So another backup we're going to talk about is a guy that might play because we don't know if Deshaun Watson's going to play, and that's Tyrod Taylor. And I'm going to put Tyrod ahead of Foles, but behind Brissett. I think that's a good spot for Tyrod Taylor. He's a guy that will never let you get blown out, but he's not going to win you any games either.
No, I like Tyrod. I do, and I want to see him do well, but he just hasn't, he hasn't done well, to be honest with you. So, I'd put him in that same spot in between Brissett and Foles. I just want to see him, kind of compete, keep you in a game, if you will.
Mm-hmm. So we got just a few more left to go. We're going a little over 2 hours today just because we're only on YouTube, so we don't have to worry about hitting a commercial break. Ryan Tannehill, this one's another tough one because I don't think Tannehill's as good as a lot of people think he is. I'm going to put him behind Goff. I think he's better than Ben and Wentz as of right now. But like I said, I'd take any of these 5 over Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, Goff and Tannehill are really close.
It's close.
They are. I'm going to take Goff over Tannehill as well. But it's another one that's really close. Tannehill, I've said it numerous times. I'll say it again. I don't think he's worth the money that he's getting. But he's done the job for Mike Vrabel. I'd still take Goff over him, but it's close.
To be fair, I don't think Goff's worth the money that he's making. I don't think Carr's worth the money that he's making. I don't think Dak's worth the money that he's making. So really, it's just modern sports. I don't think 95% of athletes aren't worth their contract. It's just what you got to do to keep them in the city. But let's move on. Let's talk about Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is good. I am a little higher on Kirk than I think a lot of people are. I'm going to put him in between Matt Ryan and Derek Carr. I'd take Carr and Mayfield, but I think Kirk's a step above Ryan, Burrow, and Goff for me.
For me, I'm gonna flip flop Ryan and Kirk. I think Ryan is still ahead of Kirk by a hair, but Kirk's still better than Burrow. I think. I like Kirk a lot, but I still think I need to see more in the playoffs from Kirk if I'm gonna bump him ahead of guys like Mayfield and Carr. So he's gonna be in between Ryan and Joey B for me.
He is. Okay, that's fair. Um, let's talk about some of the rookies that we haven't done yet. And we'll start with Zach Wilson. Wilson obviously is going to go and don't know. Hypothetically, where I think he'll be his rookie year, probably between Garoppolo and Jameis. I think Garoppolo's got a little bit more experience to him. I think Zach Wilson's a great athlete, but I think his first year, he's not going to be anything super spectacular. He'll have moments where he looks like, a stud down the road, like all rookies do, but he'll also have a lot of moments where Jets fans will be concerned if he's actually the guy or not. So we don't know about Zach Wilson. He could be one of the rookies that I think struggles the most. I think Mac Jones got put in a really good system, and obviously Trevor Lawrence is the most talented. But I think Zach Wilson has maybe an extremely high ceiling. So, be patient with Zach Wilson. He might, have one of the not as great of rookie years as some of the other guys in his class, but his ceiling is definitely very high.
Yeah, the Jets are going to struggle again this year. I think they are. They are. Wilson is going to have it's going to be like a, getting his feet wet kind of year, if you will. So, the Jets are going to struggle. I'm on a don't know basis with Wilson, like I am with all of these rookies. But it's going to be interesting to see how Wilson pans out there in New York.
Trey Lance, don't know where I would put him. Probably where I put Zach Wilson, right behind Garoppolo. I think that all of these rookies have the potential to be better than guys like Winston and Dalton and Fitzpatrick, but I can't put them over established quarterbacks like Wentz and Garoppolo and Roethlisberger and stuff like that. So I think I'm going to very commonly be putting them right here.
Yeah, that middle between Garoppolo and Winston is honestly, like you said, where I'm going to put all of these rookies. To be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And then Justin Fields, the last one we're going to do today. Justin Fields, I mean, we've heard a lot of really good things about Justin Fields so far in Bears camp. Matt Nagy said he's got, that killer mentality. Darnell Mooney said the first time he saw Fields throw a deep ball, he was smiling in the middle of the route. So Justin Fields has been turning some heads. I think Justin has a chance to have the second best rookie season behind Trevor Lawrence. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if by the end of his rookie year, we have Justin Fields in good tier. But as of right now, obviously, we don't know.
Yeah, it's close. Like we said, Dalton's going to start the year, but I wouldn't be surprised to see week 5, 6, 7, to see Fields get thrown in there and to see what he's made of.
Yeah. Well, we did 2 tier lists today. That one was really fun. It took a little bit because there's a lot of quarterbacks to break down, but hey, you get an extra 15 minutes of content from us today. So there you go.
Yeah, it was a blast.
It was really fun.
These 2 tier lists was a lot of fun. I love this quarterback one, man. I really did.
Yeah, that was really, really fun. It was hard to, because you really think of you don't think about who's better, Dak or Kyler Murray, until you put them side by side on a tier list. And you're like, who would I take? That I did not think the hardest decision for me tonight would be Big Ben versus Carson Wentz. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was insanely closer than I thought.
Yeah, it was. But we're gonna wrap it up here. Call it a week here. We appreciate you hanging out with us all week long. It is 12:22 at the time of recording this, and we're both going to get some shut-eye so we can host an orientation event tomorrow. So we hope to see you in the Apollo room, whether you're in that first group from 11:30 to 12:30 or that second group from 1 to 2. Come see us at the WWSU table. We'll hook you up with a hot card. We'll hook you up with a T-shirt, and we'll let you know how you can join our historic station and be one of the next voices of WWSU. So we'll see you next time. Until Monday, Parker, any closing thoughts?
Really looking forward to this event tomorrow. Well, today
today, yeah.
as we say this, it's over by now by the end of the show. But I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait to see all of you. the future Raiders or anyone involved. And I can't wait to, get back to them and make sure my desk is okay and make sure no one,
I haven't touched it, so if there's something wrong with it, it's Pat. I didn't touch it.
Come on, Pat.
And I mean, I don't. We're not going to talk politics on this show, and I don't want to talk politics on this show. But to have room of 100 college-age students, no mask, no social distancing, not worrying about that stuff for the first time in a year and a half, it's going to be a breath of fresh air.
It feels so.
Nice. It's going to be nice.
It feels so free. It really does.
It does. I don't have to bring my mask when I leave places now.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy to think after all we've been through in the last, 15 months, wherever it is, that we've gotten back to this point.
Yeah, it's great. It feels good. It feels really, really good. And I know that a lot of people that I've talked to on campus are really excited about it. And I know that, overall, I know some people have differing opinions. I completely respect everyone's opinion.
Sure.
I completely respect everyone's right to get or not get the vaccine. I completely respect, business owners saying we'd still prefer for you to wear a mask in our establishment. I totally respect that. I get that. And that's why I still bring my mask with me almost every time I leave the house. I don't wear it. But if I ever am with a client or if I'm ever with, at a business where they'd like me to put it on, I respect that choice enough to put it on. I do that. So I don't want this to sound like, you have to we're all on anti-mask, but I feel like I'm ready to be back to normal or as close to normal as we can be right now. And I know a lot of people are in the same boat. And I think everyone that's going to be at orientation tomorrow is just going to be really happy to have something semi close to normal.
Yeah. And actually have in-person orientations, like I have never experienced an in-person orientation.
Yeah, this is a first for you.
Orientations were all online for me going in last year. So I'm excited.
No doubt about it. Well, until next time, until Monday, this is Shea Neal, and alongside with me, Parker Testa, saying so long. Follow us on social media, WWSU1069. Goodness, I'm starting to slur my speech. You can tell I'm tired. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. That's where you can catch us. And make sure you come see us at orientation. We give out those hot cards. Scan that QR code on the back. It takes you right to our website. You can follow us on social media. And if you follow us on social media, we'll keep it with a free WWSU t-shirt. So, I talked to a couple people earlier today. I think that's a fair trade. I think that's a really good offer. All you have to do is press that follow button on our social medias, and we give you a free T-shirt.
It's very fair. I think it's a pretty good trade-off.
I think they win the trade.
Right, you get a pretty good T-shirt, and you get to see some awesome content from our social media team.
And I'll be rocking the T-shirts that we're giving out tomorrow. I washed it earlier today, so I'm going to be rocking that. So you'll see me wearing it. And if I don't rep the brand, who's going to rep it? So, yeah. But until next time, we appreciate you hanging out with us. Go Raider gang. I know their season's over, but I will still be rocking the merch year round. So I appreciate, it's a great hoodie. It's really, really soft and I really, really like it. But we appreciate you hanging out with us. We'll see you on Monday. Until next time, keep it real with Testa and Neal. We'll see you soon.